to your health. It was the subject of a Best Life report. Check it out.
The choices seem endless. So how do you pick your sunscreen?
My girlfriend gave me one.
Anything like above 50 SPF.
Unless I'm away in an island or something, I don't use it.
Whichever you choose, you need to know not all sunscreens are created equal. Recent studies show some popular sunscreen brands contain toxic chemicals such as oxybenzone, homosalate, and octocrylene. These chemicals can disrupt hormones in the body and lead to reproductive problems and even cancer. These chemicals can be detected on the skin and in the blood weeks after being used. Also, try to avoid the chemical benzene. When researchers tested sunscreen for more than 5 dozen manufacturers, they found that 27% of them contained the carcinogen, even though benzene was not listed as an ingredient. Researchers recommend using mineral-based sunscreens that use zinc oxide or titanium dioxide as the active ingredient. The Environmental Working Group keeps a close watch on sunscreens and puts out the best and worst list each year. You can check out EWG.org to see if your favorite sunscreen is safe.
Remember, no sunscreen is waterproof or sweat-proof, and that's why you need to reapply every 2 hours or so after getting out of the water. And there is a new rule. It's called the teaspoon shot glass rule. You use a teaspoon of sunscreen on your face and a shot glass full to cover the rest of your body. Interesting stuff there. All right, let's talk about technology meant to improve our lives, but that doesn't always happen. Consumer Reports investigation reveals that the power of our lives each day can contain some hidden biases. Ariana Poindexter has more.
For decades, people of color were kept out of home ownership, a practice called redlining. Though this practice is now illegal, the results have not changed.
The information used in redlining has largely been fed into new algorithms that are essentially doing the same kind of thing without the racist overtones.
A new Consumer Reports documentary series called Bad Input sheds light on the ways in which technology is failing in home lending, medicine, and facial recognition and security, which raises the question, can technology be racist?
The answer is yes. If tech is fed bad information, it will continue to give us bad outputs.
During the pandemic, pulse oximeters helped save lives, but a study done by experts at the University of Michigan showed that the technology was not as accurate for Black patients versus white patients.
People of color were presenting and getting wrong readings. It delayed the care that they were able to receive and could really have some dire consequences. If you're showing up and your blood oxygen level is incorrect.
You may not notice it, but facial recognition technology can be found everywhere, on your phone, at the self-checkout at a store, or standing in line at an event, and security is scanning.
We've seen cases across the country of people being misidentified and facing criminal charges.
To learn more about discriminatory technology and to watch CR's 3-part documentary series, Bad Input, visit badinput.org.
Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Well, I have got a really cool story for you, and this is as we begin to celebrate Moms and Mother's Day, almost exactly 91 years after Amelia Earhart's first transatlantic flight. There was a FedEx pilot duo that was very, very unique. A mother-daughter duo made history as the only mother-daughter team to ever co-pilot an international flight. And guess what? We are on the cutting edge here at the Action News 5 Digital Desk. We have that mother-daughter duo with us right now on the digital desk. We have Terry Eidson and Nicole McAllister joining us, and through the advent of technology, we got Terry down in Florida, Nicole in Anchorage, Alaska. Both of them fly for FedEx, Memphis-based shipping giant. Ladies, good morning. I'm so glad you're with us this morning. First off, I'll start with you, Terry.
Good morning.
Tell me what it was like, having this moment. And did you know you were making history when you were flying with your daughter?
I did not realize it at that when we first were paired together, but as it started growing and kind of becoming its own story, before we left, we realized that, and I didn't realize the connection with the 91 year before Amelia Earhart. So since Amelia Earhart did her transatlantic flight, so it came to fruition. Kind of quickly, but yeah, it was exciting. We were thrilled to be able to mark that moment in history.
It's really cool. I mean, it's really neat. When I was looking at this interview and when we were going to be talking, I was like, oh, this is awesome. I love it. I love it. Nicole, over to you. Tell me about the experience when you realized, this was a history in the making here, a journey where you took, I should say, to South Korea. You left Memphis, the Memphis hub, and you went 14 hours, 30 minutes to South Korea. Tell me what it was like for you, Nicole, and has your mom always been a role model?
It was an honor to be a part of the flight, and she has. My mom, ever since I was young, has always been there for me, and I recall when I was really little, even on the place or going out to the playground, my mom would be the parent that was active with us, and she was there on the swings with us and going around and just playing with us, even though other parents were sitting on the benches, reading their books, kind of doing their own thing. My mom was always hands-on. And throughout the years, she continued to be like that. And I have just had the best childhood and the best support as an adult from my mom. And there are so many different ways that I've looked up to her as a role model. So, and now as a mom myself, I lean real heavily on her and call her a lot to ask what to do for my son. And it's incredible to have that support. And then not only have that from my mother, but then to be able to say in my career field, hey, I've come across this with flying. What would you recommend? Or, hey, I'm concerned about this. What would you do? And I can get experience and guidance from her in all aspects. And that's just incredible.
Yeah, it really is amazing. And you both fly 777s with FedEx, which is it tells me you're very accomplished pilots. But I want to stay with you, Nicole, for a brief moment. Tell me about your upbringing a little bit. I mean, where did you grow up? I understand you went into the Air Force, and then how did you get connected? And did you ever think, wow, maybe I could get on a flight with my mom?
Well, actually, I remember when I was born in Colorado, but then we moved to Tennessee when both my parents working with FedEx as pilots. And so my mom, we were in Germantown, Tennessee growing up, and she had taken me to a few of their Christmas parties, FedEx's Christmas parties at the old Falcon building. And so I grew up with FedEx and have always seen purple in the household. So love the company. And as I was older, I started working towards my private pilot certificate and my instrument. And when I was on my instrument, I started realizing that training in aviation is very expensive. And so my mom was like, well, hey, FedEx could probably help with that. You should look into working with FedEx. So I started working with FedEx as a courier and driving around with them and going to the sort and throwing around boxes too. And they helped pay for my instrument rating. And after that, through a scholarship and education promotion that they endorsed at the time. And then after that, I realized it was going to be significantly more expensive. And so my mother was like, well, let me reach out to some people. Let me talk to some people. And she found some contacts through military. And she said, this might be a really good path. And so her and my father both had some contacts for me. And I reached out, and several people along the way helped me. And it was incredible. So I was able to get my foot in the door with military and started flying and training with the UPT program, undergrad pilot training, and was hired on with the Alaska Air National Guard up in Fairbanks, Alaska. Flew the KC-135 and knew I wanted to get on with FedEx, so started flying regionals and then got on with FedEx. So it was a really neat path. And
that sounds
FedEx is a great company, and excited.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. You got the roots here in the Mid-South. Terry, I want to ask you this because I found it really interesting, Terry, that you started out in aviation as a flight attendant and then you pursued your career as a pilot. Tell me about that, because I would think, you know, there weren't too many female pilots at the time, that you raised your hand and said, hey, I want to be a pilot, and then being this kind of role model for your daughter. That's pretty special, I would think.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And it has been wonderful. It's been a wonderful path. But truth be told, I did not start out as a flight attendant. I started out as a skydiver. When I was young, I was a little girl in Australia, and we lived in the approach end of the airport there. And I looked up, and at the time in the 60s, that's what little girls would, inspired to do if they wanted to get in aviation. The idea of being a pilot wasn't an option. But so when I was little, I thought I wanted to be a flight attendant. I never did become a flight attendant, but I ended up flying corporate, and I actually worked for FedEx as a handler in the hub in Memphis as well. But when I got older, I realized I could be a pilot. I could be the pilot that flies these airplanes. Back in the 60s, girls didn't get to have that as an option for commercial aviation. So it was that moment that I thought I wanted to do that kind of got me into aviation. Then I realized I think I could fly these too. So that was an option that I looked into and started pursuing that.
Amazing stuff. I love it. And so we mentioned this off the top that you went on April 27th, which is almost exactly 91 years after Amelia Earhart's first transatlantic flight. Looking back at this history and looking back at what this means, I mean, in the simplest terms, Terry, I mean, you were being a great role model for your daughter. Obviously, she's followed in your footsteps. I mean, what does that do for the inside? How does that make you feel?
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, initially when she said that she wanted to get in aviation, I'm like, are you sure? I think you'd make a great lawyer. But I just wanted to make sure she wasn't doing it because that's what we do. And I wanted her to be her own person. And she first started looking into law, and then she said, I think I really want to be a pilot. I'm like, okay. So that was the path that she decided to pursue, and she's done great. I mean, she hasn't taken the easy way, and she's worked very, very hard for what she has.
Fantastic. Well, ladies, you are inspiring so many people here and anyone who watches this. Very inspirational story. I'll leave the last word to both of you. Terry, you go first. What do you want to say as we approach Mother's Day and having this story out there, and anything you would like to say to others that are perhaps aspiring pilots?
Go for your dreams. Go for it. And moms rock. I mean, you don't have to be a pilot. You don't have to be, an executive. You can be whatever you want to be. You can be a stay-at-home mom. You can do whatever you want to do. You don't have to do, label yourself. So happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. And it's a tough job, but it's definitely worth it. The mothers, whatever you choose to do as a career, being a mom comes first.
And Nicole, you are a mom to a 1-year-old boy. Anything else you want to say about this and about this momentous occasion?
It's been an honor. Like my mom was saying, being a mom's hard work, but it's incredible, and I'm starting to learn that. And I'm just so honored that I had the opportunity and that FedEx was able to give us this opportunity to fly together so she could see all the years of support and what she's done to help me kind of cultivate to a flight together. And for us to be able to have that experience is just incredible. And so on this Mother's Day, Mom, I love you lots. I'm really proud of you. And I'm really glad to have a role model like you, and hope that I can mirror those skills that you've taught me over the years for my son. And to all the moms out there, and it's like sometimes it feels like hard work. And I think sometimes we do mom shame, where we feel like we need to do better or we're not doing everything we can. But if you're loving your child and being there for them, then you're doing it and you're doing great. And that's awesome. And so happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there.
Man, you guys are the sweetest. Wow. Good stuff. Ladies, I really appreciate both of you. Happy Mother's Day to both of you, and Daughters Rock too. And just really appreciative of both of you joining us on the Digital Desk. Thanks so much, and have a great Mother's Day to you both.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Great morning.
Right now, I want to focus on imposter syndrome, because that is an issue that you may not know much about, really, and it's important to combat what is imposter syndrome and to better understand it. Let's bring in Dr. Gail Gazelle. She is an assistant professor of medicine at Harvard Medical School and a master certified coach for physicians. Dr. Gazelle, nice to have you back on. Good morning to you.
Good morning. A pleasure to be here.
Yes, absolutely. Let's talk about what exactly is imposter syndrome.
It's so important to be aware of what it is. It's this idea that what we know is tiny, maybe as big as the tip of my pinky. And what our peers and similarly situated people know is, kind of massive, as big as the city of Boston. And we live in fear that we're going to be found out, that somehow people will find out how little we know, how smart we are, how compassionate we are, what a good parent we are. It can really cross into any domain. And when they find out, we are going to be the laughing stock of our institution or even of our community. We're going to be found out as a complete fraud. So it creates an incredible amount of fear and anxiety and distress for otherwise accomplished individuals.
So are these individuals that are people that live with this imposter syndrome, are they people already doing a job and then they fear that they are not living up to others' expectations? Or is it a sense of fearing the possibility of what they could do, but out of that imposter syndrome fear, they don't even go for that next position or a next situation?
I think it covers both ends of that spectrum. If you go on Google and you Google who feels like an imposter, you will be amazed at the number of very high-profile individuals who actually have felt like they are an imposter. Michelle Obama, Elena Sotomayor, Jodie Foster has a quote about, oh, did they give the Oscar to the wrong person? So a lot of highly accomplished individuals walk around feeling like an imposter. And as you could hear, I named 3 women. It is thought to be more common in women than in men. At the same time, it can hold us back from achieving our full potential, from really going for it, from going for a job promotion, for example, for entering into a graduate program, for being a leader in our church or in our community. All of that sense of being an imposter can leave us feeling like we're unworthy, that other people are somehow better suited. So it's so important to actually recognize when we're going off into these imposter thoughts and utilize tools to work with them.
Anyone that has a sense of insecurity at any time in their life can have some empathy when it comes to this imposter syndrome. And is that thought and that syndrome, is it ignited by insecurities in the past? Where does it come from?
I don't think we know fully exactly where it comes from, but the fact that it's more common in women than men kind of gives us some clues. We live in such a gender stereotyped society, don't we, that men are this way and women are this way. And for women, it's often about how we appear, how we look, whether we're smiling enough, whether we're pretty enough, attentive enough to our looks. And that can actually create a sense of insecurity, a sense that there's something that isn't really intrinsic to me that people are seeing as my worth. So I think that's an important factor to think about when we look back at the development of the imposter syndrome. Bottom line, though, it's incredibly common in otherwise very placed and accomplished people who, I think as many of us walk around, we would never suspect that they themselves are accusing themselves of being an imposter.
No question. So let's talk about ways to combat this, because according to the research out there, 10,000 to 20,000 thoughts our human brain has every single day. And gosh, I mean, I guess that could range in all kinds of different directions. But how do we combat imposter syndrome?
Well, that's the important question, isn't it? And I think you're right on the mark. We need to get to know our own thought patterns. As you say, the human mind is a thought-producing machine, tens of thousands of thoughts per day, many of which are incredibly useful. But when we begin to pay attention more with a mindful attitude of attention, we actually begin to see how many of our thoughts are not useful, not helpful. Self-accusatory thoughts like, I'm an imposter, people will find out that I'm not worthy. And so one really important strategy is getting to know your own thoughts and realizing that while these thoughts are appearing in your mind, you don't have to believe them all. You actually can question them. You can pause and question, well, how do I even know that I'm an imposter? What's the data that I'm utilizing to make this assessment? And then all of a sudden you can realize that it's actually a little bit laughable, that your mind has created this fictional story of being an imposter really on almost no data and certainly no objective data. So I think that's really important to apply very practical mindfulness tools to getting to know our own thoughts.
Yes, absolutely. I'm fascinated by this because absolutely mindfulness is key. What about other ways outside of one's self? Are there people, are there family members, perhaps professionals that someone could go to let them know or reassure them that they're not an imposter?
I think that's important, to go to confidants, whether that's a family member or a spouse or a colleague or a coworker, and actually get validation. I felt like I really didn't know what I was talking about when I gave that presentation, just as an example. Can you give me some feedback? In other words, that's a way to step out of the subjective process that our minds are in and actually get some objective data. I think another strategy that's really important is every day to do an inventory of your strengths. Looking at our strengths and accomplishments is a really important counterbalance to this whole idea that we're not the real deal. And so at the end of every day, just to do an inventory, well, what strengths did I evidence as I went through my day today? That's a way to build the muscle of seeing the truth. We're not looking for some Pollyanna fake assessment of who we are. We're looking for a more balanced assessment. And that's one way that we can help ourselves develop it.
Self-confidence is key, I would think. How common is imposter syndrome out there?
We don't know for sure, but estimates are that over 70% of women experience the imposter syndrome. I'm a physician. I work in healthcare. I coach physicians and physician leaders. And in the over 500 physicians I've coached one-on-one in the last decade, I'll be honest with you, it's a rare one that doesn't walk around feeling like an imposter. And I think that tells us something as well. All the information and expertise that physicians have, all their years of training, all the good that they do in the world, and yet they walk around feeling like an imposter. So I think that kind of validation is important. And for your viewers who may themselves suffer from the imposter syndrome, sometimes when we realize it's not just us, that this is actually a characteristic of the human species, that many of us feel this way, that can also help reduce the sense of isolation that the imposter syndrome engenders.
Dr. Gesell, this has been very informative for our viewers, what you're talking about with imposter syndrome. What happens if one of our viewers, now that they've informed themselves about what it is, sees someone that perhaps shows signs of an imposter syndrome? How should they approach someone?
I think that validation is extremely important. So perhaps to say to that individual, gosh, I can see how troubling this is. I can see how it kind of keeps you acting small in your workplace and in your community. And I want to share with you that I myself have felt like an imposter. So I'm saying that as Gail Gesell, a Harvard Medical School assistant professor. But I think that's something that we can lend to others who are experiencing this. Simply validate that we too experience this, or that, people in high places experience this. I think, again, that decreases that sense that the mind has that it's just us. And so that can lighten the load and actually make one question, step into curiosity. Well, do I even need to feel this? Do I need to keep kind of lording this over myself, so to speak? And is it really helping me in any way?
Great information, Dr. Gazelle. Anything else you want to mention before we let you go?
I have a free guide on my site, if that can be helpful to your viewers, www.gailgazelle.com. It's called Imposter No More, where I share some of the tips that we spoke about today. So it's free. If that can be helpful to your viewers, please feel free to download it.
Dr. Gail Gazelle, Assistant Professor of Medicine at Harvard University. Thank you so much. I really enjoy our conversations. I feel like I learn a lot more after talking with you about the topics that we discuss. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Want to switch gears now and talk to many of those viewers that are watching both on Facebook and our digital platforms, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and Roku, about the job seeking market and how to get your LinkedIn profile specifically up to where it needs to be. Amp it up a little bit so that it grabs those employers and says, hey, look at me. Hire me, consider me for this next job. Let's bring in the Senior VP of Marketing for Recruiter.com, Angela Copeland, joining us. Angela, welcome back. How are you?
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yes, I appreciate you joining us, and let's talk about that market out there. So the last time we talked to you was several months ago, and you told us it was really a job seekers market. Is that still the same, and from your perspective, and how important is that LinkedIn profile these days?
It's a great question. You know, the market continues to be very exciting right now. You know, things are really changing. As you've seen, some big companies have had layoffs, things are changing. But we actually do a poll each month called the Recruiter Index. And we found for our latest poll that sentiment is up among both job seekers and recruiters. And as you know, the unemployment rate continues to be relatively low, considering everything going on in the market. So I think it's a great time to continue looking, and LinkedIn is a great place to start.
You know, so many of us have LinkedIn profiles, and a lot of times, you know, we're unsure exactly, at least I am, of what to exactly post on LinkedIn. I mainly contain it to professional skills, professional workplace, not something that's silly. You know, I'll put that on other social media platforms, but only strictly with work-based stuff do I put on LinkedIn. Am I doing right? What's the best way to really enhance your LinkedIn profile?
Yes, you are. So first of all, I hear from lots of job seekers who say, do I really have to do LinkedIn? Is it really that important? And yes, it is, especially if you have a job that's kind of a desk job. LinkedIn is critical. And I agree with you. Social things are meant for Facebook. LinkedIn is for professional. You know, LinkedIn has a lot of different uses. So one thing to keep in mind is that a lot of recruiters actually use LinkedIn to find candidates. I have heard from a ton of job seekers over the last year who've gotten cold calls from recruiters that are interested to interview them for jobs. And those interviews actually turn out to be jobs. But the way the recruiters found them very often was by looking at their LinkedIn profile. So what you want to keep in mind is that when a recruiter is looking for someone on LinkedIn, they actually search. They have a special tool where they can sort of search through LinkedIn profiles. So you want to be sure that yours is up to date. You want to have your current job, all of your current skills. There's a headline that you want to be sure to fill out because that actually helps you to go sort of up in the search rankings in LinkedIn. And you want to have a picture because you want to show those recruiters and the employers that you are a real person and that you're really there looking for a job.
So many people will reach out on LinkedIn to try and network with other professionals. Is that a good or bad idea? What are the parameters of networking on LinkedIn?
You know, I love networking on LinkedIn, but you have to do it the right way. You don't want to come across like a spammer. You don't want to be bothering people. But it is a good way to reach out. And very often it can be a good way to research a company and see if you can find who the hiring manager is or who the other people are that work at that company. And, I think that is a really solid way to use LinkedIn. If you want to reach out and mention that you've seen a job posting that you're interested in and you'd love to ask more questions, or that you'd love to sort of share a little bit about your background, I think that's great. Assuming that LinkedIn is sort of like your one-stop shop to getting free meetings all day, every day is kind of a bad tactic to be taking. But I think, LinkedIn can be an excellent source. There are also a lot of groups on LinkedIn that you can join that are specific to sort of industry or job function. And it's a great way to meet other people that are in your industry and to really connect with them. But I think last but not least, there is an entire section of jobs that are posted on LinkedIn. So if you're looking for a job, you can actually go and look up jobs at all different companies, not just LinkedIn, but many different companies, and find a fit for what you're looking for, and then you can actually apply. So it's interesting because you can use it in a lot of different ways, to stay in touch with people you've worked with, to make new connections, and then to apply for things you'd like to do in the future.
Great advice, Angela. What about the do's and don'ts? I get people coming to me saying, I don't know if I'm posting too much on LinkedIn or if I'm not posting enough. You don't want to bother people, but at the same time, you want to get your name and brand out there. Are there some good do's and don'ts that people should be following?
Absolutely. You touched on one, which is really keep it professional. When you have your photo that you're uploading, make sure that it is just you and that it's recent. I've seen pictures in the past of people that are in a wedding dress or that are at a party or have a drink in their hand. That is not a LinkedIn photo. So there are things like that you want to keep in mind. You want to, again, keep your profile up to date. I would say keep in mind, though, that if there are certain things that are confidential about your job or your company, don't post those in your LinkedIn. Have discretion. Again, don't reach out to people too often. If you are posting, you can actually share posts similar to Facebook. You can kind of share updates on LinkedIn. And I would keep those to things that are truly useful information to the folks that you're connected to. You don't want to be posting sort of random things that you might otherwise see on a site like Facebook. And I would also follow sort of social etiquette norms where you're not talking about things like politics, religion, money right on your LinkedIn. Think of it almost like a dinner party where you only know these people so well and you're there to make a good first impression, but it's got to be kind of surfacey to some degree.
LinkedIn has certain levels, premium, the free membership. When should we go for the premium?
It's a good question. The good news is they have a trial, and I always suggest to job seekers sign up for the trial and see what you think about it. You can get away with not having it, but if you are actively looking for a job, sometimes signing up for the paid service can be helpful. The big feature that I think is really useful to job seekers is that it allows you to send what's called an in-mail. And that means that you can send kind of like an email within LinkedIn, but to folks that you don't otherwise know or you're not already connected to. And each month, if you have a paid subscription, you're allocated, I believe it's maybe 5 in-mails that you can send, and that can really help you as you're applying. To me, that's really the biggest difference, although I do think it's possible that LinkedIn tends to prioritize the paid members above the non-paid members when it comes to applications and other, communications within LinkedIn. So I think there's a slight advantage, and it's not too terribly expensive, but I would start out with the free trial because you can certainly get away with using that.
You mentioned earlier about your picture, make sure you have a picture on there. And I'm curious, a lot of times people don't know the kind of picture. Do you want a picture where you're sitting at a cubicle? Do you want a picture where, it's like a glamour shot? Can you give a little clarity on the picture?
It's a great question. You know, when it comes to your picture, it doesn't have to be some professional photo that you hire a photographer to take. You can have a family member or a friend take it, and you could take it with a phone even. But it does need to be, you know, a shirt or a dress that you would wear in a professional environment. And, you know, you want to have good lighting. You want to have the picture be recent, and, you know, be sort of in a space where there are not other people around in that photo with you. And it should primarily be your face. Those would be the guidelines I'd really try to stick to with the photo.
This has been fantastic, Angela. Really appreciate the insight here. Anything else you want to mention before we let you go?
No, I think, you know, if you're ready to look for a job, start now, because it can take months and you don't want to put it off. And, you know, I would say one of the biggest fears job seekers have is, gosh, what if I get that job offer and it's not for me? But if it's not for you, you can just turn it down and keep going. So start looking.
How long would you say that it takes someone to get a job in this market?
Oh, it's such a good question, because so often as a job seeker, you'll get feedback from your family and friends who just can't believe that you don't have a job yet. It really depends. You know, at an executive level, it could take 3 to 6 months to go through an interview process once you find the right job. But sometimes if you're sort of like in an entry level position, say right out of college, you know, that process could just take a few weeks or maybe 1 to 2 months. But first, you've got to get in front of that hiring manager, and that takes time. It takes persistence. So, you know, get out there and start applying now.
Angela Copeland, thanks so much. We appreciate the insight each and every time we talk. Thanks for taking a few minutes with us today.
Thank you.
This time of year is when people really like to spend a lot of time outside, whether that's camping, hiking, you name it. People like to enjoy this nice weather. But of course, you always have to worry about risks, things like Lyme disease and ticks this time of year. So joining me now to talk a little bit more about this is Dr. Jeff Mullins. He is a primary care physician with Methodist Medical Group. Dr. Mullins, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing well. It's a beautiful day outside.
I know. Let's just take another live look and just take it in and enjoy this, because I hate that I'm inside stuck at work right now, but I'm looking forward to a really nice weekend. I'm probably planning to be out in nature. So, of course, the focus this morning is talking about ticks, Lyme disease. I guess to just start things off, let's just talk about, a lot of people hear about Lyme disease, but what exactly is it?
Lyme disease is a bacterial infection that's carried by ticks. Predominantly the Burgdorferi tick, or what some people call the deer tick. It's a pretty common disease, actually. It's a lot more common than people think. It's just not as common down here in the South as it is up in the Northeast and the upper Midwest. There's a lot of discrepancy. If you go online and do a little research, a lot of discrepancy in the number of cases that you see every year. And it is a reportable disease, but unfortunately, I think the method of reporting to the CDC is not very good. The CDC says that there's about 35,000 cases a year, which is significant. But researchers have found, by looking through insurance records of where people have actually been treated for Lyme disease, the number is closer to over 400,000 cases a year, excuse me. And so there's this big discrepancy in the number of cases. Fortunately for us in the Mid-South, the vast majority, over 90% of the cases, are going to be in New England and the upper Midwest. But it does occur in the South, and it is a concern this time of the year, as ticks are a real problem for those who garden or those who live in the country, and those who camp and go fishing and hunting and these kind of things. You're going to encounter ticks this year. It's going to be a pretty bad tick year. We've already starting to see people come into the office with tick bites.
You know, it's surprising to me, because you say it's not as common down here. I would think with so many outdoor opportunities and things like that, that it maybe would be a little bit more common. But I guess the big thing, people want to know, how do I protect myself? Because we like to spend time outside when it's nice. What is the best thing that you can do to protect yourself?
Well, wearing proper clothing when you're actually going to be in contact with tall weeds, brush, being out in the woods. It's not as much of a problem if you're walking across someone's manicured lawn or hanging out by the pool as it's going to be if, like I said, you're tramping through the woods or on a trail. Ticks like to they like to get on weeds and bushes that are near where people or animals will actually walk by and brush them. And I've actually seen them on the edge of a weed with their arms up like this, just waiting for something to come in contact with something. So the best thing to do is to wear proper clothing, and by proper clothing, if you're going to be in a tick infested area, one of the things you may want to consider doing is wearing long pants and long sleeve shirt. Now, it gets really hot in the summer and the peak of tick season, and that's kind of a tough thing to do. And you got to be careful about overheating as well. So if you're going to be in an area where you may contact ticks and you're going to wear long sleeves, long pants to do things like gardening, you need to be out there for early in the morning doing it before it gets too hot. But if you're going to be out, you're just a regular person out tramping in the woods on a beautiful summer day, you probably want to make sure that you're using a insect repellent that contains DEET, and you want to make sure that you spray on your exposed skin areas, not only to protect you from ticks, of course, but from things like chiggers and mosquitoes. Mosquitoes can carry things like West Nile fever and encephalitis, so you don't want to be getting bit by mosquitoes either. But the same insect repellent will work on ticks as well. We would take our socks and pull them over the end of our pants legs so nothing could crawl up into them. Honestly, it looks kind of goofy, but it does work to prevent you from getting ticks on you. But you're using DEET around the cuffs of your pants and around your waist and around on your arms. It will be pretty protective for repelling ticks. And that's what I recommend is a good insect repellent.
Some good advice. I know that I've been that one myself, that when I've gone out hiking, I wear, kind of some lightweight hiking pants, and then I do pull the socks over because it works. I think it's a good tip,
It does work.
Yeah. And so I'm going to use the trick with a DEET too as well, because obviously mosquitoes are bad enough here, and if that's an extra layer to protect me from ticks, then I'm saying count me in. I will ask, though, are there usually common places where people will find ticks? Because when you go out and you're hiking or you're camping and whatnot, are there certain places on your body that you need to make sure that you're checking when you come back inside? What advice would you have for that?
Yeah, first of all, if you've been outside and you've been in the woods or you've been doing some gardening where you're concerned that you may have come in contact with ticks, the first thing you want to do when you come inside is you want to go into the bathroom, take off your clothes, okay? And one of the things I advise is don't take off your clothes and throw them into the dirty clothes hamper, okay? Take off your clothes and shake them over your bathtub, because there can be ticks in your clothing. And if they're not on you, but they're in your clothing, guess what they're going to do when you put them in the hamper? They're going to crawl out and wait to get on you at some other time. And so shake your clothing out over the bathtub. You'll see anything that falls out, and you actually just wash it down the drain if that occurs. And then get in the mirror and do an inspection of your body. Someone who's hair challenged like me doesn't have this issue, but there are many, many, many people that have very thick hair. And if it gets into your scalp and starts to attach there, you may not even know it until it's been on you for quite some time. Early detection of a tick attaching to you is important. Some experts believe that a tick has to be on you for about 24 hours before you can actually be infected with a tick-borne disease like Lyme disease. So getting the tick off of you in a prompt manner is very important. While we're talking about that, what do you do if you find a tick? Okay, well, there's lots of old country kind of things that people do. Paint the tick with nail polish so it suffocates and backs out. Touching it, lighting a match, blowing it out, and touching to the back of the tick. I don't recommend any of these things, because if you disturb the tick to that degree, it can actually regurgitate into your body, and what might have not been a disease-causing exposure may then become one. What you want to do is you want to take a pair of tweezers, and you want to get as close to the head as you can. clamp down on the head and as gently as possible, but pull back very slowly. Don't jerk it out. Pull back very slowly. The tick will release, and then you need to dispose of the tick. There's a few ways you can do that. They're very difficult to crush. They have a very, very hard shell. You can do it, but it's very, very hard to do. We live out in the country, and we have a septic system. So what I do is I flush it down the toilet, because once it goes down the toilet, it's not coming out anywhere and getting anybody else. The other thing you probably want to be considerate of this time of year are your pets. Okay, they have lots of products now that repel ticks and fleas and these kind of things off your animals. But it's not a bad idea if your dog's been out rolling around the yard and that kind of stuff. When they come in, just to give them a quick brush down. And because if the tick gets on the animal and it tries to implant, and this medication it's on causes the tick to be repelled, it'll drop off the dog in your home, and then you have a problem. So kind of giving Rover a quick once over with a brush to knock off any ticks that may have attached, may have climbed onto your dog is not a bad idea either. Another thing you can do, I think in family medicine, we're real big in prevention. And one of the things you can do to prevent this from becoming a problem is treat your yard. And there are several good products. Some of them are granular, some of them are sprays. You want to be careful if you have small children. You want to read labels about how long after you apply something to your yard before you can let your pets come in contact with it. But they have some very good products that are very good at killing things like ticks, so that your yard won't be a problem. And I highly recommend doing that this time of year as well.
Good advice. And I know you were talking about, I think a lot of people's first instinct when they have a tick on them is try to get it off of them as quickly as possible. So that was some good advice with the tweezers and making sure that it's a slow process. I'm wondering though, I've heard about people doing this too, if they do find a tick on them and they remove it, to maybe put it in a Ziploc bag in case, if there's a way to identify if maybe it would be one of those ticks that would have Lyme disease. Is that something that people should think about doing if they're concerned about it? Yes or no?
Not really. The vast majority of tick bites do not result in any disease, and that we probably should talk about that as well. When do you get concerned if you have had a tick on you? What do you need to do after you remove it? First thing, let's talk about something that's very common, and it's a skin reaction to the proteins that are in the saliva of the tick. These are not proteins that belong in your body. Your body sometimes is very adept at recognizing this and can react to it quite vigorously. It's not uncommon that some hours after you've removed a tick, you'll look down there and there'll be a red spot and you go, oh my gosh, it's giving me something. Not really. That's probably more of an allergic reaction, a tissue reaction to what we call arthropod proteins that are in the saliva of the tick. So what you want to do is just watch that area. It's okay. It's not a bad idea after you remove the tick to put a little dab of antibiotic ointment on there, but that won't prevent that kind of reaction, because the reaction is not an infection. The reaction is almost like an allergic reaction. With Lyme disease, the classic presentation is that red spot will develop kind of a target lesion, looks like a bullseye. That should be a big concern if you develop a bullseye type of lesion where you've removed a tick. But the more also a classic presentation is what we call erythema migrans, which in Latin just means migrating redness. And so from the red spot that's there initially, you see this red area just spreading out from it. It typically doesn't hurt, and it typically doesn't itch. That should be a concern. All tick-borne illnesses have some common features, rash being one of them. There's different rashes, for example, for Rocky Mountain spotted fever than there for Lyme disease, but a lot of the tick-borne illnesses will have a rash, fever, headache, and joint pains. And as clinician, we look for at least 3 out of 4 of those as a measure of concern. So if you have someone that got a tick bite, they may not even have a rash. They may have removed a tick, and then maybe a week later, they're feeling bad. They're feeling run down. They're having a headache. They're having some joint pains, and they're having low-grade fever. Well, guess what? We still got COVID around, and those can be signs of COVID as well. So always keep in mind, hey, it could be COVID. Do a home test to make sure. But contact your physician or your nurse practitioner and say, look, I got bit by a tick. I didn't really have much of a reaction to it initially, but now I'm not feeling good. I'm running a little bit of a fever, and I'm kind of achy, and I have kind of a headache. Those are all warning signs to a clinician that you may have encountered a tick-borne illness. Testing for Lyme is a little sketchy. About 50% of cases will not be detected early. They'll be detected late. So this clinical suspicion based on symptoms is very important. So if you have these kind of symptoms, and again, just to reiterate, rash, fever, headache, joint pains, 3 out of the 4 is enough to really have a strong clinical suspicion. But as usual, if in doubt, contact your healthcare provider and talk to them about what's happened and maybe come in and be checked out.
Some good advice for sure. And obviously, the big thing that we're trying to do today is know how to prevent this. How do you keep from getting Lyme disease? But if someone does, in fact, get Lyme disease, what kind of impact does that have? What does it do to the body?
Well, there's 2 considerations. One, if you develop symptoms, classic symptoms, and you're treated, you really shouldn't have any long-term, what we call sequela, things that happen to you long-term from Lyme. But the problem is where Lyme goes untreated. You can imagine if you got bit by a tick and you didn't break out in a rash, you kind of got a little headachy, a little tired, maybe some joint pains, a little low-grade fever. You might think you're coming down with something. And then if those symptoms kind of clear and you never got treatment, you're going to forget about it. And then weeks or months later, Lyme can really cause problems with significant joint inflammation, cardiovascular issues can occur. So you don't want to get to a point where that happens. Again, prevention, not getting bit by a tick at all is obviously the best thing to do. But if you do get bit by a tick, watch out for those symptoms. And if in doubt, see your healthcare provider. Now, some patients freak out when they get bit by a tick. They're so frightened because they've heard horrible things about Lyme disease, and untreated Lyme disease can be a horrible disease, but it's actually quite uncommon. Okay, so the chances are you won't get Lyme disease if you get a tick. But if you develop any of those symptoms, just seek attention promptly and you should be fine. But long-term problems from having untreated Lyme disease can be quite significant. One of the things that's discouraging to me as a clinician is there are some providers in the country that have kind of made a cottage industry as labeling people as having chronic Lyme disease based on the fact that they have antibodies to the Lyme organism. Well, having antibodies doesn't necessarily confirm infection. And there is absolutely no clinical data that these people need to be on long-term antibiotics for the rest of their lives. Chances are, even if you're detected somewhat late and you've developed some of these more significant symptoms, you can still be treated with infection. The weird thing about Lyme disease is in people who aren't treated promptly, even if they're treated successfully later and there's no indication that the organism is still in their body, it seems to kind of set up this resonance in the body where they continue to have symptoms sometimes for years, and they can become disabled with it. So again, prevention, not getting Lyme disease in the first place, is step number one. But we're going to get ticks. Okay, I get them, and I'm fully aware of how to avoid them, and I'll still get one now and then. The best thing to do is to be aware of what to watch out for and to seek medical attention promptly if you develop any of these symptoms of a tick-borne illness.
And that's why this conversation is so important this morning. But while we have you here, Dr. Mullins, any other kind of summer safety tips you want to make sure that we hit on?
Well, yes, like I said, protecting yourself from mosquitoes, from things like West Nile virus and encephalitis is important. Obviously, most people get bit by a mosquito, don't get sick, but this is an avoidable thing with the kind of insect repellents that we have. So I do that. The biggest problem in the Mid-South this time of year, as we get into the really hot days, it's heat exhaustion and heat stroke. So you want to be really careful, particularly if you already have health problems or you're older. You want to be careful about getting overheated, but young people can get dangerously overheated as well, outside playing hard in the sun and these kind of things. Take breaks, get in the shade, hydrate very well. It's generally not necessary for most of us to drink electrolyte replacement type of beverages. If we just keep well hydrated, most of us get more than enough salt and potassium in our diet. We don't really have to worry about drinking the electrolyte replacement solutions. But protecting against dehydration, heat exhaustion, and God forbid heat stroke, which kills people in the Mid-South every year, we really need to be cautious with that. Also, while we're along those lines, there are people in our community who don't have air conditioning. There are elderly people in our community who don't have air conditioning. If you know some of these people, if they're your neighbors, your friends, your relatives, as we get into the hot part of the year, please check on them and make sure that they're okay. And offer them a place to stay if you can when it gets really hot if they don't have air conditioning. And of course, the city and the county will open up shelters during some of these times as well. But when you compare the yearly toll from things like ticks in Shelby County, mosquitoes in Shelby County, and heat in Shelby County, heat beats them all.
Yeah, definitely important to make sure you're staying hydrated, because a lot of times that kind of thing can sneak up on you and you don't realize how dehydrated you are. Yeah. So, Dr. Mullins, I appreciate you taking some time this morning to share this information with our viewers. It was really good to talk to you, and you have a great morning, all right?
Thank you. You too.
Well, as you're heading out the door here on a Friday morning, we've got a mixture of clouds and sun and also opportunities for scattered showers and storms. You're joining us here on the digital desk and our digital platforms on Action News 5. I'm First Alert meteorologist Patrick Ellis. 85 the forecast high temperature for today. A southerly wind coming in here around 10 miles per hour. And keep in mind that we're probably going to be tangling with some scattered downpours from time to time. Won't be an all-day washout. I think there will be some periods of time where we will see that sunshine that will help to boost up the temperatures. Greek Festival kicks off here today. If you are heading out there, temperatures would work their way into the middle 80s. A bit of a breeze coming out of the south and southwest around 10, maybe as high as 15 miles per hour from time to time this afternoon. But notice those rain chances tapering off a bit through the afternoon and early evening. But don't be looking at this and saying, okay, we're going to be out of the rain completely. I think we do get another wave of showers and thunderstorms to contend with later on tonight that could feature a few stronger storms as well. Wind and hail, the potential in play there. Tornado risk pretty low, but of course with the showers and storms, they could be quite heavy. Let's go hour by hour with that, okay? As we roll through this morning, you'll see the showers and rumbles of thunder kind of pushing through here. We've been noticing that throughout much of the morning hours. A lot of the stuff that's over in eastern Arkansas will trek across the Mississippi River and continue its trek towards the north and east. We are watching other complexes of thunderstorms around the region, one of which is up into southeastern Arkansas, southeastern portions of Missouri. That will head in our direction tonight or later on today. That will feature some opportunities for some stronger storms. Before that, temperatures warming up well into the 80s, but here comes that cluster of thunderstorms dropping in here that could feature some strong winds, hail, frequent lightning, and of course torrential downpours moving into metro Memphis by the time we head into about 8, 9 o'clock this evening. If this model is correct, there are other models that would suggest it be a little bit earlier, and some don't even show it at all. So it's still a low confidence forecast, but we want you to be prepared and have that first alert to the potential at some point in time today of storms moving into your area. The showers and storms that we do get will fade away. We'll do the whole process over again for your Saturday. A few spotty showers early in the day, then rolling into the afternoon hours. Upper 80s, approaching 90 Saturday afternoon. A couple of spotty downpours from here and there, about 20 to 30% opportunity of seeing that. Then we'll drop back down through the 70s as we head into your Sunday. Sunday looks to be a pretty nice day for Mother's Day, starting off maybe a patchy area of fog or shower chance, working our way back up into the upper 80s to near 90 degrees for Mother's Day. So if you have brunch plans, be prepared for that. Church plans as well. Passing shower and storm chances and that summer steam continues. The positive note is that we will eventually see some drier air moving into the area. Mother's Day forecast up to 90 degrees, a 20% chance for a shower or storm under partly sunny skies. And you'll notice that muggy meter dropping into the lower end of the spectrum by next week. That comes by way of a front that will also usher in lower rain chances by the time we head towards the mid portion of next week. Highs in the lower 80s, could be a couple spots, upper 70s in some of the cooler pockets. Overnight lows in the lower 60s by that point. So that's good news. Some lower humidity, feeling pretty nice, but we have to get past this summery steam that's still in place here through the end of this week, into the weekend, and into early next week before we get into that drier air.
Okay, a 19-year-old is accused of shooting at an off-duty police officer at outside a packed restaurant last month. He is now a free man. We're talking about Chase Harris. He faces multiple felony accounts. He was locked up at 201 Poplar for just a few hours before being released on his bond. Under the new bond system, every defendant gets a bail hearing within 72 hours. But his low bond left some people questioning the county's new bail bond system, including Memphis Mayor Jim Strickland, who says enough is enough. Kelly Cook has more.
Shots fired outside a busy Huey's restaurant late last month. Memphis police say 19-year-old Chase Harris fired his weapon at an off-duty police officer who allegedly caught Harris and another suspect trying to steal a car. Harris was arrested Tuesday, bonded out the following day. His bond just $55,000.
All they do is stop in for a cup of coffee and arrest, and they get right back out to break into your car and steal cars all across the city. I'm tired of it, and it has to stop. Our court system is broken.
Memphis Mayor Jim Strickland has been a sharp critic of the new bail bond system. Under the new program, bail is set using a nationally recognized formula and an assessment system that considers past criminal history and a defendant's ability to pay. It's not judges traditionally setting bonds, but 14 appointed judicial commissioners that determine flight risk or danger to the community.
I've asked them to be transparent. Put these bonds every day. I mean, they sign a one-page bond paper, post it on the internet so the public knows who's doing it. I've gotten zero response to that.
Harris's case, the 19-year-old has been charged in multiple car thefts in the past 5 months. In December of last year, he confessed to police he stole a car and was released on his own recognizance. A January car theft charge was dropped due to lack of evidence. He was given a $10,000 bond for 2 car theft charges from April. He can now add 5 counts of aggravated assault in addition to car burglary charges following the Huey's incident, for which he was given a $45,000 bond. Harris has never been found guilty of any charges as an adult. District Attorney Steve Mulroy said back in February the ability for a defendant to be free on bond shouldn't come down to whether or not they have the ability to pay.
Because under the old system, we had a lot of people who were innocent, who were being held behind bars for months, sometimes years, waiting for their day in court.
That's Kelly Cook reporting. D.A. Mulroy says his office supports prosecuting and sentencing violent criminals, but as you heard, he seemed to support this new system as well. Harris is expected back in court in June for a charge from December. In an effort to prevent car thefts in Memphis, MPD is giving away wheel locks once again. The department is hosting a giveaway Tuesday, May 23rd at Austin Peay and Mount Moriah from 10 in the morning until noon. There's a look back at one of the giveaways last October. These locks will come on a first come, first served basis and one per vehicle. Local pastors, principals working on how to address the growing juvenile crime in Memphis. This is a breakfast that happened yesterday morning. It was a chance for faith and school leaders to come together, share different ideas about what they're doing to bring down the juvenile crime program in this area. Sheriff Bonner was there along with Shelby County Commissioner Henry Brooks. And he says it hopes that these conversations will lead to more involving the youth.
It's more than just one piece than just law enforcement. It takes a collaborative effort with the entire community, because the community needs to decide as simple as how would they like to be policed. And so we need to have these conversations and talk about and get organized and figure out what's the next step.
Sheriff Bonner says local law enforcement has discussed extra patrols going into the summer. He also stressed the importance of community input and conversation because he says building partnerships will keep everybody safe. Well, thanks to a neighbor who spoke up, Memphis Animal Services seized nearly 100 birds from a man charged with illegal cockfighting. Stephanie Douglas has more.
Oh, I saw the birds all the time. A neighbor on Dunn Avenue who spoke with Action News 5 anonymously says she's not surprised by the crimes. 45-year-old Pedro Hernandez was arrested for over 100 charges of animal cruelty Wednesday.
Because they have so many little chickens too. I mean, there's roosters, chicks, and chickens.
A tip from a neighbor led to Memphis Organized Crime Unit Vice team to execute a search warrant. Detectives say inside the home, officers found caged roosters with no food or water that appeared to be near death or injured. They also found cash, multiple ropes, syringes, and spurs used for cockfighting.
It don't surprise me.
Memphis Animal Services is currently caring for all 90 birds. The shelter is now in crisis mode, the birds adding to the 150% capacity the shelter was already facing due to a dog overpopulation.
We need to get some dogs out of this building so that our capacity is low enough that our staff has the ability to properly care for this additional 90 animal influx that we weren't expecting as of 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon.
Memphis Animal Services say the birds are on a temporary hold for testing. For now, the public can help by fostering and adopting dogs and puppies from the shelter.
It feels like we're a broken record sometimes. Help, adopt, foster, adopt, foster. Gosh, do we need that help today.
This time of year.
Check out the latest cover of the Memphis Flyer. You can see it there. I want to talk about a story that's inside. It's about the Tennessee Ballet Theater. It's brought to life the histories of Ernestine and Hazel's, the Ansdale Mansion, and Jack Robinson Gallery through dance. And now the company is talking about the Medicine Factory, once a pharmaceutical company, now home to Artist Studios. Let's bring in the author of this article, Abigail Maurice. She is joining us now on the Digital Desk. Abigail, how are you? Good morning. Tell us about Tennessee Ballet Theater and the 901 stories. I find that so interesting.
Yeah, it's a really cool project that they do. It started, I think, a couple of years ago back, where they will bring to life like the histories of the building. So they did, like you said, Ernestine and Hazel's, and they're the Jack Robinson Gallery. But this time around, they're in the Medicine Factory. But instead of just focusing on the Medicine Factory history, they're going to like expand out into the general Memphis area. So they will do like a dance that's like about, there's this woman, Mrs. W.C. Stewart, who ran her husband's potato chip and mayonnaise factory after he died, and that was in the Medicine Factory. And so the choreographer and artistic director of TBT, she talks a lot about how she was fascinated by doing the research, how she was only referred to Mrs. W.C. Stewart and not like by her first name or anything. It's like that's all we know about her. So she choreographed a dance to that, and it's really cool. And there are a bunch of other stories in there too.
I love it. You know, it's almost like local history. I'm a big fan of history, and I love local history when you can tell it. And then telling it through dance like this, that's going to be really special. So where can we see these events? It's happening this weekend, right?
Yeah, so it's going to be at the Medicine Factory, and you can find out more at like either memphisflyer.com and go to like the events tab, or you can go online to their website. You can get tickets at tbt.ticketleap.com, and it's just really cool.
Yeah, so when you were researching and writing this article, what struck you as the most fascinating aspect? I mean, you know, you're seeing a ballet theater doing all kinds of different stories, you know, as we mentioned about Ernestine and Hazel's very iconic place downtown, and the Ansdale Mansion, another place. I mean, these are staples of, you know, Memphis architecture and folklore going back decades, hundreds of years.
Yeah. So when I was talking to Erin Walter, who's the artistic director, like I mentioned, we've spoken on the phone for like over an hour about like all these stories that she's talking about, because there's so much history that I don't know about, and I'm assuming other people don't. I mean, this might be ignorant, but like for me, I didn't know that Machine Gun Kelly was an actual gangster. I thought he was a rapper married to Megan Fox. So they're doing a dance on him and I think his life, but they're also talking about William Faulkner and his muse. I think her name was Joan Williams. And she was a novelist too. And like they were at least love letters back and forth to each other. And so that dance is going to have choreography set to like actors reading out these love letters that they have between each other and talking about writing and stuff. And in order to like make that dance, Walter talked to like an author of a book that described this like romance that not a lot of people like know about, I don't think. And it's obviously like based in Memphis. The lady, Joan Williams, is from Memphis, and yeah, there's just so many other stories. And there's like, I don't know if you're familiar with Pink Lizzie, but she's like a really famous ghost story, and they're gonna do like that dance in the basement to make it spooky. So it's gonna be really fun.
Now, there's so many different ghosts in Memphis, Abigail. Which one are you referring to? Is this the one at the Orpheum?
No, this is, she was the ghost that haunted the Brinkley Girls' School from like, I think the 1800s. And basically she like appeared to the student while she was playing piano, and she was like this dressed in pink and like all gross looking and, you know, emancipated, and she looked, you know, dead. And she appeared to this girl and was like talking about her father. Her father used to own the house before, and there's this whole like fiasco around it because like the news picked up on the story like nationally, and it just kind of like spread, and like it got all these like seances and attracted all this like press. And then there's something about a jar, like she had to like go find a jar that Pink Lizzie wanted her to find, and it's supposed to have like all these secrets to the building. So she found the jar, and then they were gonna have this like big ceremony and open it up to the public, but then they lost the jar the night before. It's a really interesting story. I would recommend looking into it because it's wild. It's like there's so many areas of it. Yeah,
well, I mean, there's books written about various haunted areas all throughout Memphis. I mean, you know, the Orpheum and Ernestine and Hazel's, and also Buddy. I mean, any of these places, when you have a town that's so rich in history and so old, you're going to have these kind of hauntings and stuff. But it sounds fascinating. I eat all that stuff up. What else can I want to point people again to your article here at the Memphis Flyer. It's on newsstands right now, and there it is, stepping out, where you're talking about these 901 stories in this dance theater, the Tennessee Ballet Theater, doing these stories through dance and talking about all these different things that are happening. And it's this Friday and Saturday, May 12th and 13th, with performances at 7 and 8:30. What else can we talk about, Abigail? This is fascinating.
Yeah. Well, Jordan occasionally will be emceeing. They're a singer in Memphis, and then they're also having Morgan McKinney from Acre, and she will be making cocktails, and one of them will be a Pink Lizzie like special cocktail. I'm not sure what that's going to look like yet, but I mean, it's a Pink Lizzie, you got to order it. Yeah, so that's supposed to be fun too.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Abigail, we appreciate you joining us here on the Action News 5 digital desk, telling us about a fascinating story that people can read at not only Memphis Flyer on newsstands now, but also memphisflyer.com. Abigail, we appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 digital desk. Inflation and interest rates, they are still running hot, leaving many consumers hesitant to spend money on items and activities that they truly love. And there's also concerns of a recession, if we're headed towards one, if we're in one right now. Let's bring in a smart shopping expert, Trey Bodge, to talk more about consumers and their spending habits, what they're concerned about. Trey, good morning. Let's talk about the latest spending trends and the challenges that Americans face right now.
So thank you so much for having me. This is such an important topic. Obviously, as you said, inflation continues to arise, and what we are seeing right now is a bit of a spending slowdown year over year, and then from March over February, month over month. Consumers are keeping their wallets a little bit closer. They're spending less. But of course, at the same time, we're heading into summer. We're wanting to travel. We have all these gifts to give: Mother's Day, Father's Day, grads, weddings. And so it's a tough time because consumers want to spend, but may not have the money to do so. And we're obviously avoiding debt as well because debt is more expensive. So it's a little bit of a tricky time financially for many Americans.
Yeah, no question about it, Trey. And I was just going to ask you, I mean, we got Mother's Day this weekend. Next month, we have Father's Day. Got a couple graduates in my family, got to get gifts for. How do we stay on budget with all this stuff?
So that is a great question, and that is really the key point here. We want to stay on budget. So I would suggest taking a couple minutes and taking a look at your budget, seeing if there's wiggle room, and then getting a sense of how much you can spend per person, and then planning your gift giving accordingly. The other thing that I would say is look for ways to save. Because this is such a big gift giving time, a lot of retailers will be offering sales. And so you should take advantage of looking at your favorite deals site to see if you can maybe get a coupon or earn some cash back. And then also don't ignore your memberships. You might have discounts coming that you don't even know are there. So for example, if you're an AARP member and you haven't bought some flowers for mom yet, there are amazing discounts with FTD. You can save 25% site-wide right now. And there are ways to save additionally on select bouquets by using code AARP30 or AARP40 to save on select bouquets. So by taking those extra steps, you can save significantly.
I like those ideas, memberships, coupons, that sort of thing. What about celebrations? Going out and trying to fight the crowds on Mother's Day is something that nobody wants to be a part of. And I understand that maybe celebrating at home might be a better option. Tell me more.
Yeah, so I love that. I mean, I am not one to go out and fight the crowds on Mother's Day either. And obviously, sometimes there's a prefix menu and there aren't things on there that everyone wants. And so I say celebrate at home. And a great way to do that is to do it collaboratively with the people around you. Have a potluck. Everyone loves to show off their favorite or their famous cookie recipe or their chili recipe. Have everyone bring something. And that obviously impacts the amount of time that you're spending to plan, and also the amount that you're spending as well financially. So that's a really good way to lighten the load and have a great time at the same time.
So after we get all this, Mother's Day, Father's Day, graduations, we're still trying to keep to that budget, stick to it as much as possible. And sometimes your health and health checkups might get in the way of that, or at least you don't want to initially spend for something like that. How can we stay on the budget, but yet still pay attention to our health to keep it at optimal levels?
Right. So throughout the pandemic, so many people stopped going to the doctor. Obviously, we were afraid to for a while, and then we just kind of put those things on the back burner. So I'm suggesting to everyone to get back on that schedule, get your regular checkups, because obviously health problems are more expensive than being healthy, right? And then I would also say if you're interested in maybe getting your hearing checked or your eyes checked, these are very important things as well. And if you happen to be an AARP member, there are ways to save on both of those areas. So believe it or not, there are ways to save on your health care as well. And so you really want to keep up with those appointments and then make sure to get your hearing and eyes checked at the same time.
Anything else, Trey, before we let you go? This has been some great ideas and suggestions for people.
Yeah, so the last thing that I would say, because interest is so high, it's really important to try to avoid credit card debt, because debt becomes more expensive when the interest rates are high. So try to stay within your budget when you're buying these gifts or hosting these gatherings, and you'll be much better for it.
All right, Trey Baj, a smart shopping expert there. We really appreciate you joining us here on the Digital Desk. Thanks for the recommendations and suggestions. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
Well, as you're heading out the door here on a Friday morning, we've got a mixture of clouds and sun, and also opportunities for scattered showers and storms. You're joining us here on the Digital Desk and our digital platforms on Action News 5. I'm First Alert meteorologist Patrick Ellis. 85 the forecast high temperature for today. A southerly wind coming in here around 10 miles per hour. And keep in mind that we're probably going to be tangling with some scattered downpours from time to time. Won't be an all-day washout. I think there will be some periods of time where we will see that sunshine that will help to boost up the temperatures. Greek Festival kicks off here today. If you are heading out there, temperatures would work their way into the middle 80s. A bit of a breeze coming out of the south and southwest around 10, maybe as high as 15 miles per hour from time to time this afternoon. But notice those rain chances tapering off a bit through the afternoon and early evening. But don't be looking at this and saying, okay, we're going to be out of the rain completely. I think we do get another wave of showers and thunderstorms to contend with later on tonight that could feature a few stronger storms as well. Wind and hail, the potential in play there. Tornado risk pretty low, but of course with the showers and storms, they could be quite heavy. Let's go hour by hour with that, okay? As we roll through this morning, you'll see the showers and rumbles of thunder kind of pushing through here. We've been noticing that throughout much of the morning hours. A lot of the stuff that's over in eastern Arkansas will trek across the Mississippi River and continue its trek towards the north and east. We are watching other complexes of thunderstorms around the region, one of which is up into southeastern Arkansas, southeastern portions of Missouri. That will head in our direction tonight or later on today. That will feature some opportunities for some stronger storms. Before that, temperatures warming up well into the 80s, but here comes that cluster of thunderstorms dropping in here that could feature some strong winds, hail, frequent lightning, and of course torrential downpours moving into metro Memphis by the time we head into about 8-9 o'clock this evening. If this model is correct, there are other models that would suggest it be a little bit earlier, and some don't even show it at all. So it's still a low confidence forecast, but we want you to be prepared and have that first alert to the potential at some point in time today of storms moving into your area. The showers and storms that we do get will fade away. We'll do the whole process over again for your Saturday. A few spotty showers early in the day, then rolling into the afternoon hours. Upper 80s, approaching 90 Saturday afternoon. A couple of spotty downpours from here and there, about 20 to 30% opportunity of seeing that. Then we'll drop back down through the 70s as we head into your Sunday. Sunday looks to be a pretty nice day for Mother's Day, starting off maybe a patchy area of fog or shower chance, working our way back up into the upper 80s to near 90 degrees for Mother's Day. So if you have brunch plans, be prepared for that. Church plans as well. Passing shower and storm chances and that summer steam continues. The positive note is that we will eventually see some drier air moving into the area. Mother's Day forecast up to 90 degrees, a 20% chance for a shower or storm under partly sunny skies. And you'll notice that muggy meter dropping into the lower end of the spectrum by next week. That comes by way of a front that will also usher in lower rain chances by the time we head towards the mid portion of next week. Highs in the lower 80s, could be a couple spots, upper 70s in some of the cooler pockets. Overnight lows in the lower 60s by that point, so that's good news. Some lower humidity feeling pretty nice, but we have to get past this summery steam that's still in place here through the end of this week, into the weekend, and into early next week before we get into that drier air.
Okay, we're approaching Mother's Day weekend here. I got a great Mother's Day story for you. I'm joined right now by Michelle Potts and Abby Potts. They both work alongside of each other at St. Francis Hospital in Memphis. Ladies, good morning to you. Appreciate you joining us on the Action News 5 digital desk. Take me through what exactly you guys do and how you get your shifts interact with one another. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. I basically am on the admin side now. I'm a nurse, and Abby Grace is in the OR. She's a scrub tech, so she assists the doctors during surgery.
Fantastic. Okay, so how did this happen? Because we've done a couple of Mother's Day stories where there's, a mother-daughter duo. We did one with FedEx where they were two pilots and they went together internationally. First ever mother-daughter duo to fly internationally. It was pretty cool. I would think that this is a rare situation. Tell me about the dynamic. What's it like, Abby, working with your mom? And are there moments where you're just like, I don't have time, Mom? Stop.
I feel really blessed and lucky to work with her because she's a great inspiration for me, just coming into healthcare. And I actually get to come eat lunch with her some days. So it's just nice a lot of people don't get to see their moms on a regular basis. So I just feel really lucky. And sometimes people will say, oh, I'm going to tell your mom on you. Well, it's fine. She's cool.
Michelle, you must have been quite the influence for Abby. Tell me about that process. Did you always want her to go into the medical profession, or when she did decide, did you kind of steer her in one way? And give me your perspective.
Well, I'm certainly thrilled that she is. She has a heart for helping people. Her integrity is right on point for being in healthcare. This child came here right out of high school, was a PCT, transporting patients fell in love with the OR, which I thought was wonderful, and decided she was going to school to be a scrub tech. So it all kind of blossomed here for her. I supported that immensely. She is stellar in the OR. The greatest joy for me is the doctors coming up saying how awesome she is. And I just can't wait to see where God takes her next. He has plans for her. She's not done yet.
That's fantastic. And again, we want to remind everybody that, Michelle, you are a registered nurse at St. Francis Hospital, and Abby, you're a surgical tech there at the same hospital. What do your colleagues say when they see you two? I mean, I'm just looking at you on a Zoom. I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys are like mini-me's and twins and even sisters. I mean, do they say anything to you guys like, here they go. Here come the Potts family, and they're coming after.
When I first started here, I would actually wear her old hat that she would wear. So some people would come up behind me and say, "Hey, Michelle," and I'm like, "You got the wrong one."
That's great. That's great. I love it. So we got Mother's Day this weekend, this Sunday. And I guess it takes a special meeting for everybody in their own little ways. Tell me what Mother's Day is like at your household. Michelle, you go first.
I usually get spoiled. She's really good, especially now she has her own money and her big girl job. She really spoils me. Christmas was amazing this past year. She is so intuitive to the things that, you might want or need, and so thoughtful. So I'm excited to see what this weekend brings. Just being with her is enough, truly, but she's going to do more. I already know.
Abby, anything you want to say to your mom before we let you go about, obviously she was quite the inspiration for you.
Thank you for always being here for me and being my biggest supporter. And everyone go hug your mom this weekend. My pleasure.
Yeah, great advice. You guys are too cute. We really appreciate you joining us on the Digital Desk. Happy Mother's Day, and thanks again for taking a few minutes. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Drew Douglas back here in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Asking for a raise from your boss. That is an intimidating idea, and certainly people are scared to do it. They don't want to do it. They feel shy about doing it. Well, let's talk more about this because we mentioned it earlier this morning. We are now joined live by the Vice President of Recruiter.com, Angela Copeland. Appreciate you joining us, Angela, and how are you?
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, we appreciate it very much. And so, the asking for that raise this time of year, it certainly can be intimidating for people. So let's get your best expert approach on how to approach that topic with your boss.
Well, this is such an important topic. I'll be honest, there is not any topic I'm hearing about more than pay right now from job seekers, because as you've seen in the news, pay is really going up now more than it really ever has. Before you have the conversation with your boss, I think you've got to kind of have a conversation with yourself. And I'd say start really by evaluating your risk tolerance, because this is a conversation that can be risky. When you go in and you have it, if it doesn't go well, we have to remember that as much as we want to fight for the most amount of money, everyone is replaceable, and it is a risky conversation. So if you've got 4 kids at home, you may want to approach it a little differently than if you don't have, any of those external factors going on. But the best time really when you're ready to have the conversation is to have it during your annual performance evaluation. And that's something that's starting to happen right now with many companies. Companies are going through their review cycle, and it's a good time to sit down and talk about where you are today and kind of where you want to be going forward in your career.
No, that's a great approach, and that's certainly a great time to ask for it. But, even still, the whole conversation, can be kind of weird. As you said, it can be awkward for somebody, especially if you're not prepared. What's the best way to prepare for that kind of conversation?
So the preparation is a very important piece. And the great news is that there's more data online today about salaries than ever before, because many companies are actually posting their salaries with job listings. And also you can look at other sites where there's available information about how much different people are making in certain roles by certain companies. So you can go in with research to have an idea of what you think is really reasonable. And then I would talk about results. You know, what are you bringing to the table? What is the value that you've provided in the last year? And how is your role evolving to some new level? You know, you don't want to go in and say, I'd just like some extra money, because of course everybody would like some extra money, but you've got to show business-wise why it makes sense. And the other thing is, I'd really brace yourself, because oftentimes companies are not incentivized to give big raises. Like if you're thinking you want a 20% or a 30% raise, your current company is not incentivized to give that raise to you. The company that will likely give you a big raise is a different company. So you've got to keep in mind that if you're truly set on making more money, you may have to look outside the walls of your current company.
I like that idea. I like that approach, research, results, and the evolution of what you're doing for the company. Great approach there. What about timing-wise? Because a lot of times, you know, if someone says, well, I haven't been there long enough, I don't know if it's the right time to ask for it. Is there a certain amount of time that you should ask for a raise?
You know, you ask a great question, because if I've just hired someone, right, and they come straight to me and they want more money, that sort of feels a little disingenuous. Like they've agreed to a certain rate and now they want more, and they haven't even really been there long enough to do what we've agreed to. But at the same time, I'm really seeing companies that are stepping up and giving employees raises today who've only been around for a few months, simply because there is so much turnover going on right now. So, you know, personally, I'd wait at least a year before you start having those conversations if you're brand new. And I would talk about it not just in terms of money. I know financially that's really what you're trying to get out of it, but you want to talk about it in terms of your career path, in terms of the value that you're bringing the company. Like you want to make it make business sense to them. It can't just be a grab for money. But really the best time is during that performance evaluation, when you're really talking about how you've done in the last year and you're talking about planning for the future.
Makes sense, certainly. And then another one that people might get tripped up on is, how much do you ask for? What's a good way to approach that?
It's a good question. You know, sometimes you can get the company to actually give you a number. If you talk about, you know, directionally how you want to, that you want to grow in the company, sometimes they'll have a number they're thinking of. But alternatively, you know, look online and see what's fair in your industry, at your company, you know, in your particular role, because you may find that, you know, a few $1,000s will get you there. You may find that, you know, it's a huge chunk of money. And I wouldn't say there's a certain percentage, but you want to go out and do your research on what really is the market rate. But keep in mind, again, if you're asking for, let's say, more than 10% at the very most, I think that's a tough ask for any company. You know, even if what you're saying makes sense, even if it's the market value, like, even if all the things make a lot of sense, if you go in and say, I want 50% more money to stay here, I think there is a good chance your boss is going to say, I'm sorry, we just can't do that. So you really want to reflect. And if you are looking for that kind of a big raise, you may just have to look somewhere else. And the good news is this is a great time to be looking. There are so many companies hiring, and they are paying more than they were in the past. So if you want to truly make a difference in your pay, switching companies is often the very best way to go.
I love that. I love that. More options out there for the employee, for sure. So what about after you make this request? Let's say you get the gumption, you do it, you don't make it awkward, and they still say no. What then?
Well, it's a good question, because this is the thing. It gives you information. If they come back and say, no, we can't do it, it gives you the information you need, right? Like either the company cannot afford to pay their employees more. Maybe the company is not in a good place, or maybe they don't value you the way that you feel they should, or maybe your manager just doesn't have a backbone. Like, it could be any of those things, but you get this information by having the conversation, and then you have to make a decision. Are you comfortable to continue to stay and to continue to work at that same rate, or do you want to look somewhere else and see if somebody else would be willing to pay you more? I think the one other alternative you might consider, especially if you work at a big company, is looking at other departments within that company, because you will find sometimes there might be one department that pays much more than another department. So if you feel like, man, I've just really maxed out in my area and I don't think my boss is going to be willing to go up any higher, perhaps you take that information and you start to even look, in other spots within your same organization.
All great advice, all great cues from you. Anything else that we can touch on regarding this topic, Angela, that we haven't mentioned already?
I think the biggest thing is go and do your research online. We are so fortunate that labor laws around salary are really changing, and they have been for probably 5 years or more. And what it creates is a situation of transparency. So if you aren't sure if you're underpaid, go online and do your research, because it is not hard to find out anymore. And those laws have changed really in an effort to create more equality within sort of the space of pay. And as an employee, you have every right to go out and do your research and decide if the amount of money that you're making works for you or doesn't work for you. So go and do your homework rather than, just wishing that someone would give you more money. And again, also remember that if you don't ask, you may not get any additional money. So asking is really the first step.
Great advice and insight as always. Angela Copeland, Vice President of Recruiter.com. Thanks very much. Appreciate all the info.
Thank you.
All right, Mother's Day is Sunday. Don't worry, if you still have a little bit of time to get some of that extra love for mom this year. Consumer investigator Rachel DePompa shares a few gift ideas that shouldn't break the bank. Take a look.
It's time to recognize the women who take care of us. Mother's Day is around the corner, and it's no surprise flowers will likely be the top gift. Start now. Look online and call around to your local florist to find the best price. Also, on your next grocery store run, remember to grab a card. Now is the time to also book your restaurant if you are taking her out to eat. Some other ideas? How about the kids doing a spa day for mommy, or buy her a gift certificate to a nice spa in town? I also caught up with Sarah Bigham, a lifestyle contributor with the website and app Eventbrite. She says Eventbrite research shows tickets to a live event or an experience are another popular idea.
The idea is that mom can get out of the house for a live event. Think a jazz concert or an experience where she can go out and get out with her family, her friends, her significant other, like a pizza tour or a cooking class. These are the type of experiences, not just concerts, but those are great too, that mom can do on her special day.
Sarah also says homemade gifts are trending well right now. You could search for different painting classes or floral arranging classes in your city or town. Maybe you could also do that class with your mom. The number of Mother's Day events listed at Eventbrite has more than doubled since 2019, so there are a lot of ideas out there if you just go searching. With this Watch in Your Wallet, I'm Rachel DePompa.
All right, the Memphis Showboats showing out after the opening season with 3 straight losses. The boats finally got that W, and the Yacht Club is cheering all the way to Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium. Well, Taylor Tucker spoke with one of the role players who helped the team lead their first victory of the season. Check out her report on Jeff McCullough.
Here's Love, lost the football, had it just knocked out of his hands.
As Doc Holliday would say, swipe, steal a scoop, scamper, and score. That's how fans are breaking down Jeff McCullough's big play against the Michigan Panthers.
An opportunity to make a play, made a strike, and that's what happened. We saw the result.
McCullough, the 6'3", 245-pound outside linebacker, made noise on the field against the Panthers. 5 sacks and a touchdown.
Here's Love, lost the football. football, had it just knocked out of his hands. It's McCulloch who picks it up. This ball's live, and McCulloch will score.
Not too bad for the big guy.
You know, whatever coach is calling out there, whatever he's trusting us to run, we just try to go execute it the way and up to his standards.
4 years at the University of Texas led McCulloch to the Showboats, a native of Houston, Texas, where everything is bigger, including his mentality. Win big or go home.
It was a win or I can't get back on the plane. Me and my roommate said that team, coach, special teams, everybody, from the kicker on down, you don't make them field goals, you stay here, my boy. I don't make my tackles, I'm staying here. Like, that's the point we were at. This is the end of the line. You're either on this side with us or you're not.
McCulloch describes himself as an aggressive, athletic pass rusher. So, no surprise, his impressive strip sack against the Panthers earned him Player of the Week honors.
Hair on fire has to be critical every step, every rep. Nothing can be a day off, step off, play off, anything, because everything matters at the end of the day. You don't know what play is going to be the one play you can make to change the game.
In Memphis, Taylor Tucker, Action News 5.
Want to show you this. If you want more Memphis Showboats action, tune in to the fifth quarter Coaches Show. It's with Action News 5 Sports Director Doc Holliday, Showboats head coach Todd Haley. They break down every big moment of every game every week. You can watch it every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday on Action News 5 Plus. All right, let's talk about honoring the best in blues in downtown Memphis. Artists took the stage for the 2023 Blues Music Artists this week. Last night, fans, musicians packed the Renaissance Convention Center to praise nominees and winners, including the likes of guitarist Eric Gale, singer Mr. Sips, singer-songwriter Sugar Ray Rayford, and of course, we can't forget Bobby Rush. We caught up with Bobby Rush before the event. Take a listen.
Getting ready to go inside and watch the young guys take all the awards, because the old guys is passing the torch to the younger guys, and that's what it's all about.
You can check out the complete list of awards, categories, and winners on our website, actionnews5.com. All right, the most fashionable week is here in Memphis and the Mid-South. We're talking about Memphis Fashion Week. It kicks off today. Dozens of designers ready to show off latest designs on the runway. Ariana Poindexter has more. Talked with two different designers who say the event opens the door for fashion, education, and innovation. Take a look.
From graphic designer to fashion designer, Demario Looney says he never imagined jumping into the fashion world.
So fashion was like not on the map at all.
After inspiration from one of his favorite designers in 2018, he took the leap of faith. Now, 5 years later, his designs are featured on the cover of this year's Memphis Fashion Week magazine.
It's so cool to see their designs go from a drawing to in the process of actually making it to the final design on a model.
Sophie Murphy with Aero Creative, the parent organization of Memphis Fashion Week, says the designers worked for 6 months leading up to this moment as part of Memphis Fashion Week's Emerging Memphis Designer Project, making sure local designers' ideas make it from the sketch pad to the runway.
It's all about coming and looking at the creative process and being in awe of just the fashion designers that we have in Memphis.
The work of at least 20 designers will be on display for the Bluff City to see. Lola Johnson is another one of those designers. She says the process has been surreal.
You have these ideas and you bring them to life because you want people to know your story. So in a way, it's storytelling throughout the designs as well.
The designers work for months creating patterns, selecting fabrics, and sewing pieces. Looney describes the design aesthetic for his brand St. Plus as luxury streetwear and says he wants everyone who sees his pieces on the runway to feel pure happiness when they see his work.
So I have these dreams that feel so magical, and when I see my designs for the first time, and so like when people wear them, I want them to have that same feeling that I had.
Okay, Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Methodist Le Bonheur Healthcare hosts a Camp Bravehearts. They've been doing this for many, many years. This is such an amazing experience, and it's for children ages 6 to 16 who have experienced a loss or bereavement. And it's been going on for quite a bit of time. I can remember doing stories years ago about it. And all I hear is that people who have attended this camp say that it's helped them so much. Let's bring in the camp director, Mark Smith, now on the Digital Digital Desk to talk more about this year's camp. Mark, good morning to you. We have thousands of people who watch us here on the Digital Desk each and every morning. Can you fill them in on exactly what Camp Braveheart is? Good morning.
Good morning, Andrew. Thanks for having us on today. Camp Bravehearts is a free 3-day camp for children and teens ages 6 to 16 who have experienced the death of a family member or friend within generally the past 2 years prior to attending camp. It's staffed by a team of trained professionals and volunteers, and we spend those 3 days together learning to deal with their grief. We do that in several ways. One way is simply normalization. Truthfully, no one in society lives very long without being touched by loss of some kind, but as a society, we do a very poor job of acknowledging grief and loss. It's something we tend to keep behind closed doors and try to deal with on our own. We stuff it down and don't acknowledge it at all. So one thing that camp does just right from the start is it normalizes it. Everyone there, even our staff, have been touched by losses. So we normalize that grief. We come together as a group of staff and children and teens, and we acknowledge the grief rather than stuffing it down and pretending it isn't there. And beyond that, we work toward expressing the emotions that comes with grief in healthy ways rather than destructive ways. And we do that through a variety of activities that may speak to a particular teen or child in ways such as expressive art, expressive music, fun, a group, physical. You know, when you think of a camp, those sorts of camp activities, and sharing memories and stories of our loved ones.
You know, I can't imagine anyone at the ages of 6 to 16 who have lost someone so near and dear to their hearts, perhaps a parent, a brother and sister. It just is devastating for that. And for you guys to organize this kind of camp is so great, making it free and open to anyone. But I know May 26th is when registration closes, so people need to begin registering now for this camp that is from June 21st through the 23rd. Tell me about the coping skills that you guys, you and your staff try to teach at the camp, Mark.
For sure. First is simply acknowledging it. So again, many people are taught that we should pretend our grief isn't there, that simply to go on and be strong. Be strong is something that you hear quite often when it comes to grief. And unfortunately, many people hear be strong and they feel like, well, that means I have to put on a brave face. I have to act as if I'm not feeling all of these things that I am feeling, but I'm supposed to be strong. There's this expectation put on me, and so I can't let anybody see that. I can't let anybody know what I'm feeling inside. So again, from the beginning, just normalizing that what you feel in grief is part of grief. It's okay to feel. It's okay to express it. Now, we do want to express in healthy ways. One emotion that people may feel with grief, sometimes we feel angry about the loss. And certainly there are healthy ways to express anger and there are unhealthy and destructive ways to express anger. So we talk about that. We have some examples. One activity that we do every year involves going to the edge of a lake, and we have an emotion that we write. And for different campers, it's different what that emotion is, but a difficult, big emotion they've been holding on to. And we write that onto a rock, and we do a physical activity of throwing that rock into the lake to represent being able to let that out. So for someone who's holding on perhaps to anger, that physical emotion of throwing the rock in a safe place, the lake, instead of at someone, is a healthy way, for example, to let that anger out. And also that physical activity, there's an actual energy release there. We also talk about coping through art, coping through music. Now, not everyone, will that speak to. So we talk about other ways. We have a child life specialist who's a part of our team, and she's going to be doing programming with our age groups about that. We have a music therapist that is coming over from Le Bonheur who's going to be spending time talking about how music becomes a part of your coping, even if you're not making music yourself, how you can integrate music into your coping. We have other activities that we do that are specifically geared to talking about if you're having big feelings, what are some ways, a menu, if you will, of expressing those and coping with those that acknowledges, lets the feeling come, and lets you process, think through, express in healthy ways, rather than keeping it bottled up inside, rather than turning yourself into a human pressure cooker, if you will, waiting for it to just explode.
We're talking about Camp Bravehearts with the camp director, Mark Smith. Camp Bravehearts, 3-day free camp, June 21st to 23rd, a safe space for emotional healing after the death of a family member for anyone who's 6 to 16. I know it's at For the Kingdom Retreat Center in Northeast Memphis. That's a beautiful campus, and it feels like you're out in the woods when you're actually in the city of Memphis, but it's beautiful, and there's so many great things for the kids to participate in. Tell me what you notice about campers as they participate in various studies and activities there at the camp during Camp Bravehearts.
Well, Andrew, kids are kids, and on day one we see a variety of personalities, just what you'd expect from a group of kids and teens. When we first welcome kids into camp, For the Kingdom has a great facility, and so there's we'll have some different we'll have volleyballs, basketballs, different things that the kids can do just to kind of, as they acclimate to being on site there. And you'll see some who are open and playful and quickly making friends and being loud like kids and teens do. Some are quiet and reserved and kind of hanging out on the edges, a little more introverted. But pretty early in the day, we have an activity, again, that acknowledges that elephant in the room, that we're all there. We're having fun, and everyone there, even our staff, all of our campers, have had a loss. And we begin to normalize. And as we keep doing activities, some fun, some serious, some physical activities that then we can make connections back to loss and expression and feeling, some that are very focused on different aspects of loss and expression and emotion. You might see common ground between the campers begin to form, just maybe over, you like Pokemon or you like soccer, so do I, and it's friendships that begin to form. Maybe it's, you lost your mom, I lost my mom, and common ground begins to form. Friendships begin to form. Campers begin to find that it's okay and it's safe to share because everybody here has had a loss, and nobody's going to judge me for what I feel in this place. So over the time together, then we begin to see some victories. Maybe it's a small victory where just someone who's been quiet through several sessions realizes that it's safe to share, and maybe they speak up and they share something that's on their mind. Maybe it's a larger victory. Maybe it's somebody who's really nervous, maybe about one of the physical activities. There's a climbing wall activity, and maybe somebody who's nervous about that, they take a small step. Maybe it's just they walk up to the wall and they literally take one step up off the ground, and that's the victory. And that's a huge victory because their friends that they've been with in their group are cheering them on and supporting them, not in a judgmental way, but just, hey, you can do this. We're here with you, which also is parallel to grief. Hey, we're in this together. We're here with you. So sometimes we also see big victories in the emotional front, like, hey, I've never really shared how I felt before. And now I feel like I can. And not just here at camp. Maybe I can go back and tell other friends or my family how I feel. These are the changes that we can see over our time together.
That's fantastic. I really appreciate everything you and your staff does for this camp and for so many Memphians and families out there that are going through such a devastating loss. Where can people sign up? Where can they get more information about Camp Bravehearts? And is there anything else you want to mention before we let you go?
They can go to methodisthealth.org/Camp Bravehearts. methodisthealth.org/Camp Bravehearts. All our information for registration is on our website there. And also, if anyone would like to sponsor our camp, it is free for campers due to generous donations through the Methodist Foundation and the Methodist Golf Classic. So information about how to sponsor campers on the webpage. We're actually going to, Andrew, we're going to extend that registration out to May 31st, just to try to get even more. We're having great response. We want to get even more response to our camp. Just the last thing that I would share for everyone who's listening is grief is a normal and natural reaction to loss. And Methodist Healthcare wants to partner with our community to walk through that with you. So please check out our website. And if you know a child or a teen who's had a loss, please send them our way.
Okay, well, listen, Mark Smith, we really appreciate you. Camp Bravehearts Program Director, thank you for all that you do for the community and Camp Bravehearts. Again, that registration deadline has been extended until the very end of May, May 31st. The camp, again, June 21st to 23rd for the Kingdom Retreat Center in Northeast Memphis. Mark, good luck this year. Thanks again for all that you do.
Thank you, Andrew.
Well, as you're heading out the door here on a Friday morning, we've got a mixture of clouds and sun and also opportunities for scattered showers and storms. You're joining us here on the digital desk and our digital platforms on Action News 5. I'm First Alert meteorologist Patrick Ellis. 85 the forecast high temperature for today. A southerly wind coming in here around 10 miles per hour. And keep in mind that we're probably going to be tangling with some scattered downpours from time to time. Won't be an all-day washout. I think there will be some periods of time where we will see that sunshine that will help to boost up the temperatures. Greek Festival kicks off here today. If you are heading out there, temperatures would work their way into the middle 80s. A bit of a breeze coming out of the south and southwest around 10, maybe as high as 15 miles per hour from time to time this afternoon. But notice those rain chances tapering off a bit through the afternoon and early evening. But don't be looking at this and saying, okay, we're going to be out of the rain completely. I think we do get another wave of showers and thunderstorms to contend with later on tonight that could feature a few stronger storms as well. Wind and hail, the potential in play there. Tornado risk pretty low, but of course with the showers and storms, they could be quite heavy. Let's go hour by hour with that, okay? As we roll through this morning, you'll see the showers and rumbles of thunder kind of pushing through here. We've been noticing that throughout much of the morning hours. A lot of the stuff that's over in eastern Arkansas will trek across the Mississippi River and continue its trek towards the north and east. We are watching other complexes of thunderstorms around the region, one of which is up into southeastern Arkansas, southeastern portions of Missouri. That will head in our direction tonight or later on today. That will feature some opportunities for some stronger storms. Before that, temperatures warming up well into the 80s, but here comes that cluster of thunderstorms dropping in here that could feature some strong winds, hail, frequent lightning, and of course torrential downpours moving into metro Memphis by the time we head into about 8, 9 o'clock this evening. If this model is correct, there are other models that would suggest it'd be a little bit earlier, and some don't even show it at all. So it's still a low confidence forecast, but we want you to be prepared and have that first alert to the potential at some point in time today of storms moving into your area. The showers and storms that we do get will fade away. We'll do the whole process over again for your Saturday. A few spotty showers early in the day, then rolling into the afternoon hours. Upper 80s, approaching 90 Saturday afternoon. A couple of spotty downpours from here and there, about 20 to 30% opportunity of seeing that. Then we'll drop back down through the 70s as we head into your Sunday. Sunday looks to be a pretty nice day for Mother's Day, starting off maybe a patchy area of fog or shower chance, working our way back up into the upper 80s to near 90 degrees for Mother's Day. So if you have brunch plans, be prepared for that. Church plans as well. Passing shower and storm chances and that summer steam continues. The positive note is that we will eventually see some drier air moving into the area. Mother's Day forecast up to 90 degrees, a 20% chance for a shower or storm under partly sunny skies. And you'll notice that muggy meter dropping into the lower end of the spectrum by next week. That comes by way of a front that will also usher in lower rain chances by the time we head towards the mid portion of next week. Highs in the lower 80s, could be a couple spots, upper 70s in some of the cooler pockets. Overnight lows in the lower 60s by that point. So that's good news. Some lower humidity, feeling pretty nice, but we have to get past this summery steam that's still in place here through the end of this week, into the weekend, and into early next week before we get into that drier air.
All right, well, graduation season is upon us, and whether it's high school graduation and maybe wanting to further your education or enter the workforce, or college graduates accepting a new job, financial decisions can be so stressful, and just trying to navigate through that can be very difficult. So joining us to talk a little bit more about it is Ashley Feinstein-Gersley. She's the author of Financial Adulting, Everything You Need to Know to Be a Financially Confident and Conscious Adult. Ashley, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on.
So I guess the first thing I want to do is just dive right in. Let's talk about maybe what are some of the biggest mistakes or things that these young adults, whether it's 18 into your early 20s, where maybe they're making mistakes financially. What would you say is probably some of the biggest problems or things that they just don't know about?
Yes, I'd say two big things. The first, and I did both of these things, so it's coming from experience, is to wait until to save until we have enough money to save. So there's this idea, and how we traditionally view saving is we earn money, we live our lives, we pay everybody else, and then we hope and wait that there will be money left over to save. And in my experience, that just doesn't work for most people. Even when we get a raise, there's still not money. So I would say pay ourselves first, pay yourself first is something that I would highly, highly recommend. And then the other is not having a plan. And I know that budgets get a bad rap. We think they might be restricting, they might limit our fun, but I view them as an act of self-love, because when we have a budget, we have a plan, we have peace of mind, we can build in things that are fun and have no guilt as we spend them, and just have clarity about where our money is going and reach our financial goals. So I would say not having a plan and waiting to save until we make more money are the two biggest mistakes that I see.
And when you talk about saving, is there a certain rule of thumb when you say you want to maybe save back this percentage of the money you're bringing in, or does it just depend on each individual's budget and what kind of money they're bringing in? What advice would you have for that?
Yes, so I would say it does depend. I am not a big fan of having a certain percentage as far as saving and investing and retirement, but I would say first and foremost, you want to have that crisis fund saved up. So that first $1,000, that first 1 month of expenses, and then from there building up to have a fully funded rainy day fund. So in case something happens with an illness or with our job, that we have money to pay for our expenses for 3 months, 6 months, depending on your personal situation.
And this is just a question for me, because I think way back, back in the day, a lot of people would have their checkbook and they would go in, and every time they would write a check, they would go in, they'd balance their checkbook. They had an idea of the money that was coming in, coming out. Do you feel like that now people really aren't using that checkbook and it's harder to maybe keep up with the money you're spending? Do you feel like that?
Yeah, I think technology has done some great things, but it makes it very easy to have no idea where our money is going. Even if you think about checkbooks are a great example, credit cards, we don't feel the pain of what we spent until the bill goes through, swiping our credit card, hopping in and out of a Lyft, we're not even really paying. So I think I'm a huge fan of having what I call money parties, which are time that we set aside to look at what's happened with our money over the last month or the last week. So actually go through and look at those expenses, because it is so easy to lose track of them. And I've had that experience where you see the credit card bill and you say, that wasn't me, but then you go through each and every expense and you realize, these things just add up. So having that time, if we don't look at our expenses, it's just not going to happen. And we need to carve out that time for ourselves.
Do you feel like that generation, you just get out of high school or you're coming out of college, that little group right there, a lot of times they're finally getting out of the house, they're starting to support themselves. Do you think that some of the biggest mistakes start off with credit cards, and maybe every time you go to a store and they say, well, you get 20% off if you apply for a credit card? Do you feel like that this generation can sometimes fall victim to that when it comes to credit cards? What are some of the biggest mistakes?
Yes. So I actually was one of the people who had that happen to me, and I didn't even understand how credit cards worked. I remember by the time I paid my bill, I had so many late fees. And so I do think there's this idea that it actually is something that I wish I knew when I graduated from school, that most people, we don't learn about this. And I'm seeing it more and more being taught in schools, which is wonderful. And I know parents want to be sharing this information with their kids, but they might not feel like they're equipped to do so. And so I do think there's this feeling when we graduate that we're the only ones who don't understand, and there can feel this taboo of talking about it and asking questions. And what I've found is that most of us don't understand, and we're all learning as we go, and we're learning the hard way. And so I do think that helps to feel less alone as we navigate this. But then also, yes, to really, I think there's a lot working against us when it comes to personal finance, and that we're not educated about it. There's with the credit card, there's probably 50 pages of small print that I could have read to understand it. So I would definitely caution to really understand any financial products that we sign up for. Talk to people about it, because if they don't understand and you don't understand, you might be able to find someone else, or to go and figure it out together can feel less lonely as we navigate this.
I remember when I was in college, starting in college, credit card companies, they actually would set up booths on campus, and they would you would end up getting a credit card, and it would have this incredibly high interest rate, but you weren't educated on what to even look for, what to consider. So I mean, I can see how credit cards can really get people into trouble. I do want to switch gears though. Student loans, when a lot of people rely on student loans to be able to go to school, what kind of advice would you give when people start looking to see how much they need to be borrowing, because they do have to pay that back at some point?
Yes, so when we're going to, there's actually a chapter in the book dedicated to debt. So understanding credit cards, understanding student loans, and I think when we think about financing college, there are a lot of pieces that fund the pie. So there could be grants, there could be financial aid, there could be federal loans, there could be private loans. But at the beginning, when we're trying to figure out how much to take out, ideally we can minimize that pie. And in interviewing some experts on student loans for the book, I found that people actually can negotiate with their universities on what they're able to help them provide. In the worst case, that they say no, but then you're able to take out less debt, and then also to shop around with those private loans, just because we might think that that first offer we get is the best offer that we're going to get, but actually the offers can vary as far as interest rates. And when we're talking about numbers that are that big, it can make a huge difference if we're paying a 6% interest rate or an 8% interest rate or a 4% interest rate on our student loan. So I would say try to reduce the amount as much as possible, and then shop around for the best rate on those private loans.
Good advice. Now, for those that are maybe graduating college, they're getting into the workforce, what are the biggest pieces of advice that you would want to send to them as far as their finances go?
I'd say the biggest, so first, again, just you're not alone in figuring this out, and financial adulting, so that is the name of my new book. Being a financial adult is about taking small, consistent steps. And so I think sometimes with a lot of different goals, but specifically our finances, we view improving in that area that it has to be this overnight transformation, that I wake up, I spend the whole weekend making my financial plan, and I'm a new person. But that sets us up for failure because it's too much of a jump. And so taking small, consistent steps that are manageable, that feel like we can keep improving, I think is the way to go, because then we're improving and learning all year round. And then something that I wished that I did more of, and I know that so many looking back at the beginning of their careers wish they did, is start saving for retirement, because when we're starting young, we have so much time to allow our money to grow and compound, and it just makes it so much easier on us later. And that money is coming out pre-tax, typically, when it's our 401k, so it actually feels less painful than you'd expect. So I'd say, looking back, that's something that a lot of people that I talk to wish they put more aside for retirement and let it grow for them.
And we've talked so much here at the Digital Desk about debt and what debt can do as far as your mental health and various other things that it can do. Do you feel, I love the name of the financial adulting. I love that. But do you feel like that one reason you decided to put this book together is because a lot of times people build up that debt while they're young, and then after they get out of college, they've built up all this debt as they're starting their new job. Do you feel like a lot of that debt ends up getting built up early on in life, and then you're just spending time trying to pay it back?
Definitely is a big part of stress in the younger generation, and something you mentioned about the booths during college and getting a free t-shirt and having, understanding that when we're paying that minimum payment, it isn't actually potentially making any dent in the balance, and our credit card could still be growing. So there's so much there, and I do think there's so much shame. First of all, there's a lot of stress around debt, especially when we're starting our careers and we might not have a lot of extra income to go towards those debt payments, but then also just the shame that comes with debt. And so I first love to talk, in the book I talk about what debt is, and it's really just money we owe for something we bought. It doesn't mean we're bad or that we did something wrong, or it could be a certain time in our life, it could be a mistake we made. But from there, really, I think sometimes when we have so much shame around the debt, it has us even not look at it. So I take everyone through a 3-step process to make a plan to manage and pay down debt by starting with looking at what it actually is. And that can be as stressful as that sounds to list out all that information. It can be really eye-opening. And then once we know what's happening, we can make a plan to manage it. So always better to have that information than to not look.
And educating yourself about what you need to know is so important. And you were mentioning about paying that minimum. I had a friend that during that age time between 18, early 20s, she got a bunch of credit cards and she told me, she's like, just pay the minimum payment. And I'm like, this is terrible advice. I guess any final points you want to make before we let you go?
I go back to that taking small, consistent steps. And you mentioned earlier why I wrote this book. And because so many of the things that you're mentioning are things that I made mistakes with. And I studied finance, I worked in finance, and I still knew nothing about my own finances. And so this is something that we are not set up for. So we want to learn as much as we can. And my goal is in writing this book and in the work I do that others don't have to make the same mistakes that I did and can progress through their financial lives with a lot less stress and potentially heartache.
Well, Ashley Feinstein-Gerstley, the author of Financial Adulting, Everything You Need to Know to Be a Financially Confident and Conscious Adult. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing some really great advice and some really good tips for our viewers this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Well, doctors across the country are sounding the alarm, saying emergency medical kits on commercial flights are outdated in a lot of cases. They fall short for sure. Our national investigative team found that the rules mandating what should be in those kits haven't been updated in nearly 2 decades. Rachel DePompa has more.
I'm going to go ahead and declare a medical emergency as well. It's actually the captain that's not doing well.
A Southwest flight from Las Vegas to Columbus, Ohio.
So we need to get him on the ground immediately. So we are an emergency aircraft at this point.
The captain falls ill with stomach pain and faints. An off-duty pilot saves the day and lands the plane back in Vegas. From pilots to flight attendants and passengers, medical emergencies are on the rise as travel increases and the population ages. The Centers for Disease Control estimates about 1 in every 600 flights has a medical emergency. Doctors are warning when the call for help comes down the aisle, they don't always have what they need to help you.
100% of the times that I've asked for those kits, they were either absent or incomplete.
Dr. Leo Nisola is talking about emergency medical kits on flights. All airlines are required by the Federal Aviation Administration to carry these bags filled with 25 mandatory items to save your life. The kits include a stethoscope, aspirin, a blood pressure cuff, and epinephrine to treat allergic reactions, but not an EpiPen, in pre-measured doses, which makes the drug easier to inject. Neither the FAA nor Congress has updated what's required inside these kits for nearly 2 decades.
I think those kits are usually outdated, the ones that I've come across, and could definitely use some improvement.
First time I saw this kit, I was astonished that they did not have something as basic as a glucometer, which is a blood sugar monitor.
Dr. Amy Faith Ho works in a Texas ER and has helped with medical emergencies on multiple flights. She says some airlines are going above and beyond to add more items and medications to their kits, just not all of them. In 2020, the FAA issued guidance to airlines encouraging them to include more. It's still not mandatory to add the extra items.
Should there be a uniform policy for all airlines and not airlines electing to do things or not do them?
But I absolutely think that this needs to be centralized and regulated in one place so that you can know what you might have on any given airline.
MedAir is a company that makes medical kits filled with more than the FAA requires. 16 airlines around the world use these kits, but not every U.S. airline. MedAir did not disclose which carriers are involved, but Alaska Airlines and Delta told us they use the kits. Dr. Paulo Alves is the company's global medical director. He led a 2019 task force created by the FAA to review what new items need to be in these kits. It made several recommendations.
The FAA is actually the governmental agency responsible for enforcing the medical kits and controlling the medical kits. But they don't define the content of the medical kit.
In a statement, the FAA told us it's reviewing the emergency medical kit requirements based on the input from this task force. Though changing the official list of requirements for these kits means Congress has to act. Until then, some of the emergency medical kits on flights continue to be outdated and inconsistent. For Investigate TV, I'm Rachel DePompa.
And our national investigative team reached out to the 8 major U.S. airlines. All of them responded with medical kits that do comply with FAA requirements. The only one that didn't respond was Spirit in this manner. All right, let's talk about a Memphis robotics company expanding its business, working to change the shipping industry in Memphis and the Mid-South. Victoria Poirier has more.
I cannot overstate the impact of this.
Dextoris Robotics develops a DX1 robot that allows logistic companies to move packages and objects with superhuman strength and speed. Previously in a 3,000 square foot facility, this fast-growing company found a new home in Midtown Memphis in a 20,000 square foot warehouse. The company is an example of how the Bluff City is becoming a melting pot for traditional industries like logistics, combined with advanced manufacturing.
Memphis has a long and great history of innovation and entrepreneurship. Robotics and logistics fits that history perfectly.
These robots will allow companies to save the health of their employees and increase effectiveness in warehouses, instead allowing workers to provide skilled services without back-breaking labor.
What you are seeing happening in the logistics industry is a lot of robots. Typically what they're doing at this point is they're moving things from point A to point B within warehouses, kind of like this.
Dextoris Robotics is changing the human role. The robot will do the dull, dirty, dangerous job of unloading trailers, while humans oversee, operate, and maintain the robot.
We got into robotics to help people. So we want to make sure that people are moving up in life.
In Midtown, Victoria Poirier, Action News 5.
And to add to that, the Greater Memphis Chamber is working with partners on 46 prospective development projects that represent about 13,000 jobs with an average wage of about $60,000. I want to tell you about some good news coming to North Memphis. Grocery store finally coming to the area. Chelsea Avenue, University Street is part of North Memphis Grocery Project. Memphis City Councilwoman Michael Eastern Thomas, well, she spearheaded the effort in her district. She held a meeting talking about the $17 million project that will include a grocery store, retail space, and affordable housing.
I think it's going to mean opportunity, hope, and just knowing that they aren't forgotten, that we aren't a disadvantaged community, and that you have people who are fighting and wanting to see your best self develop.
So I'm excited about it. I won't have to drive all the way to Kroger. I won't have to drive all the way to Superload, save a lot. I can shop right in my own community.
Organizers not releasing the name of the grocery store. Construction set to start sometime later this year. Let's talk about First Horizon Bank committing $50 million to the communities it serves. The announcement comes less than 1 week after the potential merger between the Memphis-based bank and TD Bank. It was called off. The commitment is part of a $200 million investment through First Horizon Foundation following the termination of that deal. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 digital desk. Drowning is the leading cause of death for children in the U.S. The American Red Cross is strongly committed to saving a life-saving role in bringing confidence in water safety skills to millions of people each and every year. In fact, let me throw this out to you. In the U.S., children ages 1 and 4 are more at risk of dying from drowning than any other cause of death. And for children ages 5 to 14, drowning is the second leading cause of unintentional injury or death after motor vehicle crashes. Let's bring in Nayeli Trejos. She's Director of Aquatics and Public Safety at the American Red Cross. Nayeli, let's talk a little bit right now about water safety and why it's so critical for families. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Water safety is incredibly critical, and the importance of having water safety first of all, is safety, right? We want to make sure we have those layers of drowning prevention, and safety is number one, right? And that's really educating our kids in that water safety. And not only that, but modeling those behaviors ourselves.
Let me ask you this, because I remember when my kids were younger, we knew about these statistics on how, the drowning leading cause of death for kids ages 1 to 4. And so we got them in swim lessons really early, but they didn't learn how to swim until much later, maybe 5, 6, 7 years old. Is there a benefit to having them in swim lessons so early, even if they don't truly know how to swim on their own?
Absolutely, and our scientific advisory council recommends 6 months old is when you really you can start swim lessons, and that really helps the child acclimate themselves to the water, right? To know what's happening, be aware of it's running at that age. And you're absolutely right. There are kids that don't really know stroke proficiency until they must order, but the main thing here is that they're water safe. They know when it's okay to enter the water. Is there a lifeguard on duty? Do I have parents' permission? Should I be swimming alone? And the answer is no, right? So it's all about educating those kids at a younger age so they have those resources.
Okay, so here we are. We're entering summer soon enough. There's going to be all kinds of swimming pools, both public and private, open for so many families across Memphis, the Mid-South, and across the country. What would you tell families of small children to be safe this summer?
First and foremost, model those behaviors like I mentioned. Make sure you tell your kids never to swim alone. Get them into water safety. Swim lessons or water safety classes. Educate them. Provide active, that's a key word, active and constant supervision. Not the fact that you're there on your cell phone. That is not active supervision, right? So really educate them, having them use a U.S. Coast Guard approved life jacket. Those are all layers of protection against drowning.
Okay, tell me about a partnership between the American Red Cross and something called Sweet Frog. What is that?
I am incredibly excited to talk about our partnership with Sweet Frog. Sweet Frog and its customers are very much vetted in this water safety mission that the American Red Cross by offering a coloring sheet for May. As you may know, May is National Water Safety Month, and actually Monday, May 15 is National Water Safety Day. So they're providing water safety classes at their branches. And not only that, but they're hosting a fundraiser for the American Red Cross on their website from May 1st through August 15. And your viewers can learn more by going to sweetfrog.com/water safety.
If you were to give a bullet point, maybe 3 bullet points for parents out there of small children to reinforce water safety, what would they be?
So number 1, active and constant supervision, having that, be a water watcher. Sweet Frog also has information on their website about that. The second thing is never swimming alone. And the other thing is just because you're on a boat doesn't mean you're safe. Really wearing that life jacket, not just having it somewhere because it's regulation, really putting that on and make sure it's U.S. Coast Guard approved.
All right, and I know we talked about a number of different tips, suggestions, ways to stay safe this summer. Is there any place online people can go for more information?
Absolutely. If you want to learn more about our partnership and Water Safety Days, you can go to sweetfrog.com/water safety. If you want to learn about our courses that you can take as a parent, whether it's Spanish or in English, online only, you can visit redcross.org.
Nayeli Trejos, Director of Aquatics Public Safety at the American Red Cross. Appreciate the conversation this morning, and let's hope everybody has a safe and happy summer. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's the cover of the latest edition of La Prensa Latina on newsstands right now, talking about the end of Title 42. Certainly a news item that we've covered extensively. It's national, international news, really. And it's, of course, on the cover of the largest bilingual newspaper here in the Memphis area. Let's bring in Vivian Fernandez de Adamson, the editor of La Prensa Latina, on this Friday morning. Hey, Vivian, how are you?
Hi, Andrew. How are you?
Doing well. So I know that this has got to be quite the topic, quite the discussion all across Memphis and the Mid-South this week, huh?
Right. Yes. Actually, I think it is a worldwide topic, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt about it. So what can we see inside the pages of La Prensa Latina?
Well, like you said, for the cover story that we have is about immigration, and the end of Title 42, which, was in place, during the pandemic to, expel the immigrants, that were coming to the United States just to avoid, more infections, due to COVID-19. But now that it ended yesterday, there's going to be new rules for immigration in this country. So, meaning that a lot of the immigrants that are coming, seeking asylum, they're going to be returned. If they don't come, legally, according to the new rules, then they might be deported and, they won't be able to come back to this country for 5 years. So again, some of these rules, said that families who cross the border will face curfews and monitoring. The head of household will wear an ankle bracelet after cases are heard within 30 days. And also they're going to open 100 regional immigration hubs across the Western Hemisphere and granting humanitarian parole to 30,000 people a month to enter the country from other countries. So they have taken, according to the Associated Press, U.S. officials have detailed that the steps that they have taken, including increasing deportation flights as they prepare for, what many are expecting, that a huge influx of immigrants, coming to, to the U.S.-Mexico border. So this is what you can read in the paper, what the new rules are, what you can do and, everything about it.
Okay, the second article I want to focus on, Vivian, is barbecue time. Yes, the World Championship Barbecue Cooking Contest 2023 yes. Downtown at the Tom Lee Park. It's going to be a great time. Right?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Although it's going to be smaller, still it is the largest competition, of this kind in the whole world. So, and it's one of the best too. So it's going to be a great time. For everybody, I've heard that, I didn't go to the music festival, but I heard that it was, very good, that people were, very happy about it. They were enjoying it. So, I'm pretty sure this is going to be another success for Memphis in May as well. Again, this is going to be from May 17th to May 20th at Tom Lee Park once again. So you can go ahead and buy your tickets, don't miss it. It's going to be wonderful. And again, instead of, having over 200 teams, like usually they do, they're going to have 150 teams. But again, this is because of all the renovations that they have done to Tom Lee Park.
Yes, absolutely. I was there for Music Fest, the Beale Street Music Festival. A lot of fun, a lot of changes too when it comes to the renovations. Certainly a good time. All right, final thing here, May National Pet Month, and ways and tips on how to take better care of your pets.
Yeah, I can say it's probably my favorite article this week because I love pets. I have a dog who is my baby. So, yes, here, we tell you, what to do to take a good care of your pets, like taking them to the vet, when you have to, giving them the right food, making sure that they drink water, enough water, and that they're, that they are in good health. And just remember that they are, not only they're a good company for you, but they are a family member as well. So you have to take care of them.
Wonderful, Vivian. Again, this is all in the pages of La Prensa Latina, LaPrensaLatina.com, on newsstands now. You can also go online. Before we let you go, Vivian, anything else you'd like to say?
Well, yes, actually, there's a lot of things, happening in town right now. For fun, you can go to Brazil by night or Brazil by day, which is, the one by night is tonight at the Crosstown Theater, and Brazil by day is tomorrow, which is a free community event for everyone, for the whole family. So, you can go and enjoy it. This is with Dance Collective and Iris Collective. So Collage Dance Collective, and Iris Collective. And again, it is free, and you can learn more about Brazil, and their music and their culture. So it's going to be really nice. And also we have the Sistine Chapel exhibit at the Renaissance Convention Center, which is an amazing exhibit, to be honest with you.
Okay, all right. Vivian Fernandez de Adamson, La Prensa Latina editor. We always appreciate you and talking with you each and every Friday morning. Have a great weekend. Thanks very much.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thanks.
Well, as you're heading out the door here on a Friday morning, we've got a mixture of clouds and sun and also opportunities for scattered showers and storms. You're joining us here on the digital desk and our digital platforms on Action News 5. I'm First Alert meteorologist Patrick Ellis. 85 the forecast high temperature for today. A southerly wind coming in here around 10 miles per hour. And keep in mind that we're probably going to be tangling with some scattered downpours from time to time. Won't be an all-day washout. I think there will be some periods of time where we will see that sunshine that will help to boost up the temperatures. Greek Festival kicks off here today. If you are heading out there, temperatures would work their way into the middle 80s. A bit of a breeze coming out of the south and southwest around 10, maybe as high as 15 miles per hour from time to time this afternoon. But notice those rain chances tapering off a bit through the afternoon and early evening. But don't be looking at this and saying, okay, we're going to be out of the rain completely. I think we do get another wave of showers and thunderstorms to contend with later on tonight that could feature a few stronger storms as well. Wind and hail, the potential in play there. Tornado risk pretty low, but of course with the showers and storms, they could be quite heavy. Let's go hour by hour with that, okay? As we roll through this morning, you'll see the showers and rumbles of thunder kind of pushing through here. We've been noticing that throughout much of the morning hours. A lot of the stuff that's over in eastern Arkansas will trek across the Mississippi River and continue its trek towards the north and east. We are watching other complexes of thunderstorms around the region, one of which is up into southeastern Arkansas, southeastern portions of Missouri. That will head in our direction tonight or later on today. That will feature some opportunities for some stronger storms. Before that, temperatures warming up well into the 80s, but here comes that cluster of thunderstorms dropping in here that could feature some strong winds, hail, frequent lightning, and of course torrential downpours moving into metro Memphis by the time we head into about 8, 9 o'clock this evening. If this model is correct, there are other models that would suggest it'd be a little bit earlier, and some don't even show it at all. So it's still a low confidence forecast, but we want you to be prepared and have that first alert to the potential at some point in time today of storms moving into your area. The showers and storms that we do get will fade away. We'll do the whole process over again for your Saturday. A few spotty showers early in the day, then rolling into the afternoon hours. Upper 80s, approaching 90 Saturday afternoon. A couple of spotty downpours from here and there, about 20 to 30% opportunity of seeing that. Then we'll drop back down through the 70s as we head into your Sunday. Sunday looks to be a pretty nice day for Mother's Day, starting off maybe a patchy area of fog or shower chance, working our way back up into the upper 80s to near 90 degrees for Mother's Day. So if you have brunch plans, be prepared for that. Church plans as well. Passing shower and storm chances in that summer steam continues. The positive note is that we will eventually see some drier air moving into the area. Mother's Day forecast up to 90 degrees, a 20% chance for a shower or storm under partly sunny skies. And you'll notice that muggy meter dropping into the lower end of the spectrum by next week. That comes by way of a front that will also usher in lower rain chances by the time we head towards the mid portion of next week. Highs in the lower 80s, could be a couple spots, upper 70s in some of the cooler pockets. Overnight lows in the lower 60s by that point. So that's good news. Some lower humidity feeling pretty nice, but we have to get past this summery steam that's still in place here through the end of this week, into the weekend, and into early next week before we get into that drier air.
Okay, we know May is Mental Health Month. It's always a good time to talk about postpartum depression because we know that 1 in 10 women will experience postpartum depression after giving birth, and this can last anywhere from 3 to 6 months. And it's estimated that 50% of mothers with postpartum depression are not diagnosed by a health professional. It's a very serious situation. And I want to bring in right now someone to talk about it, do a deep dive here. Dr. Patrick Cleeton with St. Francis Medical Partners, OBGYN. Doctor, good morning to you. Let's talk about first off, the postpartum depression. How common is it when it comes to you and your practice here in Memphis in the Mid-South?
Well, you said it. About 10% of patients experience it, and not everyone comes forward to mention their symptoms. There can be a stigma around it, and that's one of the things that we're working to get around is being comfortable talking about it so that you can get help, because it's a very treatable condition.
Yes, sir. And so let's talk now about the signs and symptoms of PPD.
So the main thing is depressed mood beyond what's normal. Also feeling tired, which is pretty common during the postpartum period. But when it gets to that point that you're not able to do the things that you need to do, such as taking care of yourself, taking care of your baby, when those things start to feel like a struggle, that's when it gets to the abnormal. When you start losing interest in normal activities that you used to take interest in, like going for walks, when you start noticing disturbances in sleep, such as insomnia, sleeping all the time, just not feeling interested in things. And those are the signs. And when you start to not feel like yourself for an extended period of time, beyond what you would expect for just taking care of a newborn, then that's when it starts to become something that we need to address.
So when a woman comes into your office and you see these signs and perhaps symptoms of postpartum depression, what's the treatment that you recommend?
So there's really kind of three main things that we discuss, which is the first one is counseling. Just talking through some of these issues, working through some of these issues is usually the opening treatment, and not everybody wants that. So the next line would be using antidepressant medication. That medication is considered safe even if patients are breastfeeding, so it's a good option. And then the third option would be using both of those together, and that seems to get some good results for folks to talk about things and use medication to help level out their moods and address their symptoms.
So if there are perhaps people that are going to be expectant mothers or someone that's trying to have a baby, is there maybe some guidelines that you just kind of counsel someone that is trying to get pregnant? I mean, is that too early?
Well, one of the biggest risk factors is somebody who has a history of depression prior to pregnancy. They're potentially predisposed to becoming having depression episodes in the postpartum. So that would be one thing that I would counsel them. If this is something you've dealt with in the past, depression, anxiety, you're concerned that your support network is not adequate, those would be things that I would want to address and make sure that we've gotten the support network, we've gotten a counselor on board prior to actually getting to that point where it's 4 weeks into the postpartum period and we're starting to unravel. If we can address these and get those things set up beforehand, obviously we're going to do better in the postpartum period.
Doctor, we have thousands of people that join us each and every morning on the Action News 5 digital desk. Is there anything else that you want to mention when it comes to postpartum depression, expectant mothers who have given birth, and May being, Mental Health Awareness Month?
Again, it's going back to what I said initially about the stigma. This is a very common thing. It's very treatable, and it's something that it does rely on the patient to bring these issues up, as we do ask about it during, of course, all our postpartum visits. But if you say, no, everything's fine, and just kind of gloss over it, then it's hard to know. It doesn't always have the outward signs like some of the physical things. But if we're able to have that conversation, then we can address these issues and we can get you back to hopefully being more of yourself and living your normal life sooner rather than later.
Okay, Dr. Patrick Clayton, OBGYN with St. Francis Medical Partners. Appreciate the conversation, sir. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Tennessee, Arkansas, Mississippi, we know it as the Mid-South. Well, guess what? We are also in the stroke belt, meaning there's a much larger incident of stroke in our region. We have Dr. Anna Yang joining us from Regional One Health. She's talking to us about this issue and why so many people in our area experience a stroke. First off, Dr. Yang, it's glad to have you back on the digital desk. Let's talk about why we are in the stroke belt. What are some of the factors that put us in there?
Yeah, so so the stroke belt is this belt in the southeastern portion of the United States, starting with Tennessee, Mississippi, and Arkansas, and then going towards the east. And this area has long been known to just have a higher incidence of strokes compared to the rest of the United States. So to be in the stroke belt, it's about at least 10% greater strokes than the rest of the country. There are a lot of factors that could be contributing to this. There have been a lot of different factors that have been looked into, but obviously what I want to focus on is the ones that we can do something about. So that would include, things like your diet, your risk factors for, high blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol, drug use, smoking. And then as far as risk factors, we don't have anything that we can't control. Race, unfortunately, is a factor as well, and African Americans are a lot more likely to have strokes than the rest of the population, which we do have a large population of here.
We always run these PSAs, Dr. Yang, about what to do in case of a stroke. I think the acronym is FACE. Is that what it is? Tell me what the warning signs are.
Yeah, so FACE or FAST. FAST is the most recent one that was out. Yeah, so FAST, so F for face, so you got the first one right. So the facial droop. A for arms, so if one arm is drooping, is weaker than the other side. And then S for speech, so slurred speech. And then T for time, so the faster, to remind you that the faster you see these symptoms, you need to call right away to go to the emergency room.
Okay, and can you talk about what happens in those in the cases of a stroke? I know it's there's a distinction between mini strokes and larger, more dangerous strokes, right?
Sure, yes. So broadly, there are actually two types of strokes. You've got your bleeding type stroke, which accounts for some of it, but the majority of strokes are going to be your blockage type strokes. So in either way, you don't have enough blood flow going to the brain. So what we call mini strokes are basically strokes in a smaller vessel that go away. So you have symptoms and your symptoms resolve, and then when you get your MRI, you don't actually really see anything obvious. And then your big strokes obviously are the ones with significant neurologic deficits, where you don't just have a little bit of weakness or a little bit of numbness, that you may even have permanent disability from it. And these are strokes that you can see when you get the MRI. You can see exactly where in the brain has been affected. But even mini strokes, if you have a mini stroke, it's not something to be taken lightly, because these are risks for having a large stroke within a couple of days to a month even. So even little strokes need to be taken care of and taken seriously.
Yeah, no question. I know that. I've had some family members that have had some of those mini strokes, and it is nothing to mess with. Let's talk about some of these different factors that people cannot control. You said age, race, those are some factors. Tell me about that.
Well, so traditionally we always thought stroke was, a disease of the older people. And in some ways, the older you get, the higher your risk. But at the same time, we're seeing it in a lot of young people too. Just not too long ago, I saw somebody in their 30s who, thought they were previously healthy have a stroke. So it's not impossible to have a stroke just because you're a young person. We're seeing it more and more often in people in their 40s and 50s. So definitely age is a risk factor, but that's not the only thing we should go by. And yes, race. So African Americans, like I said, have a much higher risk and rate of strokes than a lot of others.
Okay, so if we have thousands of people watching us on the digital desk, Dr. Yang, if there are maybe 3 or 4 bullet points that you could give people to say, okay, you don't want to have a stroke, and ways to prevent ever having one, what would you say?
So the first thing I would say is go to your doctor, first of all, to get the things that you can control under control. So just because you don't know that you have high blood pressure or diabetes or high cholesterol doesn't mean you don't, because you've never seen a doctor. So please go get that checked. And if you do have these are things that can be managed. And so the more you can lower your risk, the more you can prevent strokes. Majority of strokes are preventable, which is good news, but you have to know about these problems in order to do something about them, to prevent them. So quitting smoking is another huge one. If you can quit smoking, ask your friends and family for help, or your doctor if you need medication to help. Smoking is a huge risk for stroke. And then, also watching your diet and, exercise, the normal things to stay healthy. Making sure, what you're putting into your mouth is what's best for your brain health and your heart health and your blood vessel health. And then, of course, avoiding drug use is another one. There are a lot of different drugs out there that can worsen your risk for stroke. So I would say definitely, A is to go to the doctor and work on these risk factors and do all the things that you can do to prevent the stroke. And then the other thing is, if you have one, please go to the ER immediately. There are medications, there are things that we can do, and the faster we do them, the better for your brain long term, the more likely that you can get some of your functioning back. Because, once the damage is done to your brain, the only thing left we can do is to try to prevent further damage and try to encourage your brain to, recover as much as possible.
You've said a lot during this interview, Dr. Yang. Where can we get this information? Is there some place online where we can go?
So the CDC has, some information on strokes, some basic information, some statistics, especially about, this area, the stroke belt, and, in general. But I mean, your greatest resource is going to be to see your doctor and talk to them specifically about, your personal risk factors and your personal medical history.
Okay, I appreciate that. And then remember FAST, face, arms, speech, and time. Such a good acronym to remember. Dr. Yang, we appreciate your time, and thanks very much. Very informative. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, as you're heading out the door here on a Friday morning, we've got a mixture of clouds and sun and also opportunities for scattered showers and storms. You're joining us here on the digital desk and our digital platforms on Action News 5. I'm First Alert meteorologist Patrick Ellis. 85 the forecast high temperature for today. A southerly wind coming in here around 10 miles per hour. And keep in mind that we're probably going to be tangling with some scattered downpours from time to time. Won't be an all-day washout. I think there will be some periods of time where we will see that sunshine that will help to boost up the temperatures. Greek Festival kicks off here today. If you are heading out there, temperatures should work their way into the middle 80s. A bit of a breeze coming out of the south and southwest around 10, maybe as high as 15 miles per hour from time to time this afternoon. But notice those rain chances tapering off a bit through the afternoon and early evening. But don't be looking at this and saying, okay, we're going to be out of the rain completely. I think we do get another wave of showers and thunderstorms to contend with later on tonight. That could feature a few stronger storms as well. Wind and hail, the potential in play there. Tornado risk pretty low, but of course with the showers and storms, they could be quite heavy. Let's go hour by hour with that, okay? As we roll through this morning, you'll see the showers and rumbles of thunder kind of pushing through here. We've been noticing that throughout much of the morning hours. A lot of the stuff that's over in eastern Arkansas will trek across the Mississippi River and continue its trek towards the north and east. We are watching other complexes of thunderstorms around the region, one of which is up into southeastern Arkansas, southeastern portions of Missouri. That will head in our direction tonight or later on today. That will feature some opportunities for some stronger storms. Before that, temperatures warming up well into the 80s, but here comes that cluster of thunderstorms dropping in here that could feature some strong winds, hail, frequent lightning, and of course torrential downpours moving into metro Memphis by the time we head into about 8-9 o'clock this evening. If this model is correct, there are other models that would suggest it be a little bit earlier, and some don't even show it at all. So it's still a low confidence forecast, but we want you to be prepared and have that first alert to the potential at some point in time today of storms moving into your area. The showers and storms that we do get will fade away. We'll do the whole process over again for your Saturday. A few spotty showers early in the day, then rolling into the afternoon hours. Upper 80s, approaching 90 Saturday afternoon. A couple of spotty downpours from here and there. About 20 to 30% opportunity of seeing that. Then we'll drop back down through the 70s as we head into your Sunday. Sunday looks to be a pretty nice day for Mother's Day. Starting off maybe a patchy area of fog or shower chance, working our way back up into the upper 80s to near 90 degrees for Mother's Day. So if you have brunch plans, be prepared for that. Church plans as well. Passing shower and storm chances in that summer steam continues. The positive note is that we will eventually see some drier air moving into the area. Mother's Day forecast up to 90 degrees, a 20% chance for a shower or storm under partly sunny skies. And you'll notice that muggy meter dropping into the lower end of the spectrum by next week. That comes by way of a front that will also usher in lower rain chances by the time we head towards the mid portion of next week. Highs in the lower 80s, could be a couple spots, upper 70s in some of the cooler pockets. Overnight lows in the lower 60s by that point. So that's good news. Some lower humidity, feeling pretty nice, but we have to get past this summery steam that's still in place here through the end of this week, into the weekend, and into early next week before we get into that drier air.
Hernandez Govan.
One of the men that is now behind bars in connection to the murder of young Dolph has been out of jail, just bonded out of jail, and it is amazing how low his bond is right now. Okay, so Hernandez Govan is the suspected mastermind behind the Memphis rapper Young Dolph's murder, okay, in 2021. So he is indicted on first-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, and he was previously held without bond. Now he's posted out, and his bond was just $90,000. Bria Bolden has details.
Hernandez Govan is accused of recruiting co-defendants Justin Johnson and Cornelius Smith to kill Memphis rapper Adolph Thornton Jr., better known as Young Dolph. Judge Lee Coffey granted Govan's $90,000 bond Thursday. He says at the recommendation of the defense and prosecution.
What's the reason for this? I don't know. I don't get involved in investigating cases. I don't get involved in particulars of the case.
Shelby County District Attorney Steve Mulroy, whose office is prosecuting the Young Dolph murder case, says Dolph's family gave their approval for the move.
We've come into some information about Mr. Govan's role and medical conditions that make us think that this is the best resolution.
According to this consent order, the defense and prosecution gave 3 reasons to agree to a bond. The state has a clearer idea of the role Govan allegedly played in the conspiracy to kill Dolph, safety and medical concerns for the defendant, and both sides agreed on the bond amount of $90,000.
I don't think we have any reason to think that we have any difficulty proving the charges in the indictment, and that we'll be able to prove, beyond a reasonable doubt, everything that's alleged in the indictment.
Govan will be placed under house arrest and will only be allowed to leave for medical purposes or meetings with his Atlanta-based attorney. Manny Aurora, known for defending high-profile clients like rapper Lil Durk and German con woman Anna Delvey Sorokin, is now representing Govan. He's only been on the job for 6 weeks.
I support Mr. Govan's plea of not guilty, and that's why I took the case, because I think his allegations have merit as to what he's fighting, and I plan on doing that.
Mid-South home damaged by fire. Take a look. This fire broke out College Road near Dickens Place West in South Haven. Blaze caused extensive damage. No word on what ignited the flames or if anybody was hurt. Let's talk now about the Memphis VA being the first hospital in the Mid-South to treat what's called heart failure patients with brand new technology that gives them a second chance at life. Joyce Peterson has more.
It's a miracle.
Dr. Indranil Basure, the director of cardiovascular research at the Memphis VA Medical Center, performed the first CCM therapy procedure in the Mid-South on Louis McCraney, a heart failure patient who had no other hope for survival.
He couldn't walk 6 feet distance from his bed to his washroom, which is attached to his bedroom, by himself in one go. He couldn't complete one single statement. He was so breathless.
Dr. Basure implanted a device made by Impulse Dynamics that provides electrical pulses to the heart 5 times a day, improving the heart's ability to contract and send oxygen-rich blood throughout the body. Mr. McCraney says he noticed a difference immediately.
It has helped me in terms of breathing in the short term, and I'm hoping in the long run it will even improve my breathing and activities much more.
CCM stands for cardiac contractility modulation. Here's the implant. It's about the size of a key fob, and unlike a pacemaker that needs battery replacement, this charges via Bluetooth.
In 3 to 4 days, he was saying he could talk. He could actually chat with his wife. He could walk to the bathroom by himself.
The FDA-approved treatment is designed to improve the quality of life for heart failure patients like Mr. McCraney, who no longer respond to medication.
Certainly, as an older person, if you can do your daily activity routine, you're much better off and you'll be healthier.
Healthier and happier, leading a longer life, spending more time with loved ones. CCM therapy, says Dr. Basare, is truly life-changing.
I love it. You know, I mean, when the patient's wife called me and said, Dr. Basare, I'd like to give you a hug. You gave my husband a new life. I loved it.
We always love to hear about young entrepreneurs, what they're doing, what they think is great for professional success. Well, there is an event I want to tell you about on May 21st that has young entrepreneurs and their young ideas that's going to be on display. Joined right now on the Action News 5 digital desk by Larissa Gregory. She is Executive Director of Light Memphis. Larissa, good morning to you. I appreciate you being here. First off, for those who are not familiar, tell us what Light Memphis is.
Yeah, good morning, Andrew. Thank you for having me. Light Memphis has been around in Memphis for about 10 years. We're celebrating our 10-year anniversary right now. And we exist to provide Black and Brown students entrepreneurship education to open up skills for them to be successful in their future, for them to launch or scale an existing business, and for them to find fulfilling, full-time, livable wage work. And so we are thrilled to be able to offer our students an opportunity to share what they've done over the last 16 weeks with the community at our event on May 21st at the Renaissance Convention Center.
We're showing pictures from last year's event here, Larissa. So tell me about this event. You mentioned it. It's May 21st, and you have 30 young entrepreneurs from 9th through 12th grade, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have kids from all over the city that have been working over the last 16 weeks to build or scale and launch a business. And so on May 21st at the Renaissance Convention Center, starting at 5 o'clock is when the doors open. The community is welcome to come and to see what these young people have been working on. We're thrilled to present their businesses. They'll have their logos. They'll have product for sale. They'll have a table set up, and any revenue that they generate on that night goes straight back to them and into their business. So we're really excited. And then we'll vote at the very end for the top 3 youth entrepreneurs, and those 3 youth entrepreneurs will receive additional seed funding towards their business. So in the program, they receive up to $1,200 to start their business. And that night on May 21st at the Renaissance Convention Center, they'll earn up to an additional $1,500, $1,000, or $750 to go towards their business in first, second, and third place. Oh, I think I lost your audio, Andrew.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Oh, there you are. Now I can hear you.
Yeah, so I was just curious because there's 30 of them there in this entrepreneurial event there on May 21st. Did they have to have certain requirements? Was there a contest to get these final 30 there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we recruit new students every semester. We go into schools, we go into community centers, we go and find where there's potential talent, and there's potential talent all over our city. So students go through a process of putting in an interest form, and then they go through a community workshop. And once they complete those 2 things, they're in the program. And it's a commitment of those 16 weeks. So the 30 students that you're going to meet on May 21st are the 30 students that have been able to persist through all 16 weeks of the program.
It sounds amazing. Tell me how the public can get involved, Larissa.
Yeah, there's a couple of ways that you can get involved. First of all, you can give of your time. We're always looking for volunteers. Always looking for volunteers. And for more information on volunteering, you can go to Lite Memphis, L-I-T-E, Memphis.org. We're also always looking for donors and partners. So whether you're an individual donor or you're a corporate organization that's looking to sow into something that's doing great things here in our city, litememphis.org is the place to come. And if you're interested in attending on Sunday, May 21st, it's a free event, and you are more than welcome to join us. There's a QR code on the invitation, I think that you just shared a second ago, Andrew. But that QR code, you can scan that and you can join us on Sunday, May 21st at 5 p.m. And we look forward to having anyone and everyone come join us.
Okay, we got it up there. There is the pitch night. This is scheduled for May 21st from 5 until 7 o'clock, the Renaissance Convention Center there in downtown Memphis. Just curious, Larissa, has there ever been someone to come out of this? I know you guys have only been around 10 years. Has there been someone that's come out of this event and really done well for themselves professionally that maybe we might know just offhand?
Not offhand that would be familiar to you in this moment, but we have had several successful students that have come through the program. You know, over the course of 10 years, we've been able to see upwards of 500 students matriculate through our program. Many of those students have gone on to complete post-secondary options and have had access to opportunities. One that comes to mind is an alumni that came through and now runs her own marketing firm, which is something that she had an idea about when she was in our program, but she was able to go through the program. We were able to support her through her matriculation, through her higher ed education, and now she's running and owns her own marketing firm. So we're very proud of her amongst a lot of our other alumni as well.
Okay, there it is one more time. Pitch night coming up Sunday, May 21st from 5 until 7 o'clock downtown at the Renaissance Convention Center. Larissa Gregory, we really appreciate you and everything that you do as the executive director of Lite Memphis. Congratulations on the group's success and good luck on the 21st. We appreciate you joining us.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Take care. Thank you for having me.
We know the month of May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and according to the CDC, get this, this is a study here, nearly 3 out of 5 teenage girls feel persistently sad or hopeless. That's the highest level reported over the past decade. That is a startling number, and it's something that we want to talk a little bit more about. Let's bring in Dr. Laura Erickson Schroth. She's Chief Medical Officer of the JED Foundation. Doctor, good morning to you. I appreciate you joining us. Tell us what the JED Foundation is, and what do you make of this recent discovery that 3 out of 5 teenage girls feel sad or hopeless? All right, check it out here. Top 10 Teen Fest 2023, May 13th. That's this weekend from 12 until 4 at Memphis Botanic Garden. Wow, check that out. Okay, let's bring in someone to talk more about this event. Corey Brown, City of Memphis Play Your Park Manager, joining us on the Action News 5 digital desk. Corey, good morning to you. First off, what is a Play Your Park Manager?
I put on different events around the city for our Memphis parks. As you know, we have over 180 developed parks around Memphis, so we just try to come up with ways to program in all those parks around the city.
I got you. Okay, appreciate that. So tell us about Teen Fest 2023. What is that?
So Teen Fest, this is our second year doing it. So Teen Fest is designed to give young artists the opportunity to display their musical talent throughout music. It could be rapping, singing, playing an instrument, just give them the chance to perform on a bigger scale.
Okay, and so this is Top 10 Teen Fest 2023 finalists. So tell us what people can expect if they check it out, and is it free? What's up?
Yeah, so we narrowed it down to the top 10. So the contestant has to actually upload the video, and their peers got to vote on it. So we took the top 10 to actually put on a concert for their peers in the park. And we also have a headliner, Robin X, Jessica Ray, and NLE Chopper will be headlining the event.
Excellent. Okay. All right. And so we're talking about all kinds of different music and different entertainment, right?
Yes, sir. So we have some singers, we have some rappers, we have people playing the instruments. So if you want to come out and enjoy a good time to see local artists to perform, Saturday is the place to be at the Botanic Garden.
All right, Saturday, May 13th from 12 until 4, Memphis Botanic Garden there at the Amphitheater, the Top 10 Teen Fest 2023. And you mentioned the city of Memphis has done this before, and tell me how it went.
Well, last year was our first year doing it, and we had a great turnout. We was at Robert Church Park downtown, and the headliner we had for that was Frisco Trey. And the kids came out, they performed, put on a great show. And the winners from last year actually got to perform with Gary Orn and the Grizzly Band at a Grizz game. So it was very awesome.
It sounds like it. And, you know, there's always been that complaint that there's not enough things for kids to do. Well, here it is. Here's the thing. There's something for you to do with the kids, with teenagers, Saturday, May 13th from 12 to 4 at Memphis Botanic Garden. Corey Brown, we appreciate your time. Thanks so very much.
Thank you for having me.
Well, as you're heading out the door here on a Friday morning, we've got a mixture of clouds and sun and also opportunities for scattered showers and storms. You're joining us here on the digital desk and our digital platforms on Action News 5. I'm First Alert meteorologist Patrick Ellis. 85 the forecast high temperature for today. A southerly wind coming in here around 10 miles per hour. And keep in mind that we're probably going to be tangling with some scattered downpours from time to time. Won't be an all-day washout. I think there will be some periods of time where we will see that sunshine that will help to boost up the temperatures. Greek Festival kicks off here today. If you are heading out there, temperatures should work their way into the middle 80s. A bit of a breeze coming out of the south and southwest around 10, maybe as high as 15 miles per hour from time to time this afternoon. But notice those rain chances tapering off a bit through the afternoon and early evening. But don't be looking at this and saying, okay, we're going to be out of the rain completely. I think we do get another wave of showers and thunderstorms to contend with later on tonight. That could feature a few stronger storms as well. Wind and hail, the potential in play there. Tornado risk pretty low, but of course with the showers and storms, they could be quite heavy. Let's go hour by hour with that, okay? As we roll through this morning, you'll see the showers and rumbles of thunder kind of pushing through here. We've been noticing that throughout much of the morning hours. A lot of this stuff that's over in eastern Arkansas will trek across the Mississippi River and continue its trek towards the north and east. We are watching other complexes of thunderstorms around the region, one of which is up into southeastern Arkansas, southeastern portions of Missouri. That will head in our direction tonight or later on today. That will feature some opportunities for some stronger storms. Before that, temperatures warming up well into the 80s, but here comes that cluster of thunderstorms dropping in here that could feature some strong winds, hail, frequent lightning, and of course torrential downpours moving into metro Memphis by the time we head into about 8-9 o'clock this evening. If this model is correct, there are other models that would suggest it be a little bit earlier, and some don't even show it at all. So it's still a low confidence forecast, but we want you to be prepared and have that first alert to the potential at some point in time today of storms moving into your area. The showers and storms that we do get will fade away. We'll do the whole process over again for your Saturday. A few spotty showers early in the day, then rolling into the afternoon hours. Upper 80s, approaching 90 Saturday afternoon. A couple of spotty downpours from here and there, about 20 to 30% opportunity of seeing that. Then we'll drop back down through the 70s as we head into your Sunday. And Sunday looks to be a pretty nice day for Mother's Day, starting off maybe a patchy area of fog or shower chance, working our way back up into the upper 80s to near near 90 degrees for Mother's Day. So if you have brunch plans, be prepared for that. Church plans as well. Passing shower and storm chances, and that summer steam continues. The positive note is that we will eventually see some drier air moving into the area. Mother's Day forecast up to 90 degrees, a 20% chance for a shower or storm under partly sunny skies. And you'll notice that muggy meter dropping into the lower end of the spectrum by next week. That comes by way of a front that will also usher in lower rain chances by the time we head towards the mid portion of next week. Highs in the lower 80s, could be a couple spots, upper 70s in some of the cooler pockets. Overnight lows in the lower 60s by that point. So that's good news. Some lower humidity, feeling pretty nice, but we have to get past this summery steam that's still in place here through the end of this week, into the weekend, and into early next week before we get into that drier air.
All right, check it out. Memphis in May has begun, and one of the best things about Memphis in May, the Memphis Greek Festival. Absolutely. It's coming up, not this weekend, next weekend, May 12th, May 13th. That's Mother's Day weekend, but don't worry, Mother's Day has its own day. It's Sunday. We got Friday and Saturday, though, for you to go to the Greek island on Highland, and so many great things to see at the Memphis Greek Festival. One of the best things to see is Kathy Zambella. She's always there. She's always happy and festive. She's joining us on the digital desk. Kathy, good morning. How are you?
Oppa, I'm doing awesome. How are you?
Doing great, my friend. So great to talk to you and talk about the Memphis Greek Festival. We are excited, and I know that Memphis and the Mid-South's very excited because this is one of the best festivals of the year, and I think if there are people that maybe haven't gone in a while, or perhaps some that are new to town, they've never been at all, go ahead and give us just kind of a rundown of what people can expect when they go there.
You know, you can expect just to be embraced by our beautiful Greek Orthodox community. We love feeding people. We love our Greek music. We love our dancing. We love our faith. We want people to go into our gorgeous sanctuary for the beautiful church tours by our Father Simon. And we want to let everybody know, come be Greek for 2 days. Next Friday and Saturday from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. We have free shuttles. We want you to park either at the Popper Plaza Shopping Center or at Life Church on Highland. We will drop you off right at that front gate. Bring 3 canned goods because we're partnering with the Mid-South Food Bank, and we want to fill that truck up to help all of the people of the Mid-South. Then come into our church, go into the wonderful dining hall. We're going to have wonderful, delicious Greek chicken rigonato, pork tenderloin, lamb, our huge pastry corner, our It's Greek to Me cookbook. We've got, you're talking about Mother's Day, we've got gifts for mom. So if you don't know what to get mom, come to the Greek Festival. We're going to have special Mother's Day baskets available. We have a wonderful lady that does jewelry. We're going to have Greek olive oil and spices, and our live Greek band, our wonderful Athenian dance troupe's going to be performing Friday night and again on Saturday. And we have Greek pizza and loukomades and gyros and pastitso, moussaka, wonderful wines and beers, just everything talking about being Greek.
You know, you went down the entire the entire thing. Yes, there is something for everybody. Sometimes when I talk to people about it, I'm like, look, this is the best festival. You got to go. Sometimes people are intimidated by a couple of things. One is the parking. Oh, where do we park? It looks so jam-packed. And I love the fact that there's a park and ride shuttle that has been set up for years where people don't have to worry about parking. We will take you there. And then the other thing is you get free admission if you just bring in 3 canned goods for the Mid-South Food Bank. I think those are 2 great opportunities for people to say, you know what, here is admission is free and you have a place to park, no issues.
Absolutely. And, the biggest thing is we do have our drive-through, and a lot of people like to come on Friday, go to the drive-through maybe through their lunch break, and they may see a special person there. I don't know, you, Andrew Douglas, and then come back on Saturday and bring the kids. It's a family event. We have the bounce house and face painting, wonderful Greek artifacts from the folks at Ole Miss at the Greek Museum there. Just so much fun.
Okay, so now I want to take a look at some of the menu that's been posted online, because this is getting a lot of people in the newsroom very hungry. Let's talk about the menu a little bit.
So if we go into the Fellowship Hall and Conference Hall, you're going to get a choice of the chicken riganato, the pork tenderloin, the souvlaki, or lamb, and with that comes our delicious spani kopita, the Greek green beans, the rice, the bread. And if you go on our website or in Eventbrite, you can save $5 and get the meal for $20. So that is just a great deal. If you don't know about Greek pastries, we do have a pre-pack that's already done for you. It's just you pick it up and you go. But if everybody does have some of their favorites, whether it's baklava or our or whatever it is, we've got those pre-packed and ready to go as well. So, and outside in the menu, our wonderful gyro, the pizza's amazing. The delicious lucamadas, those are like warm honey donuts with delicious honey on the top and cinnamon powder sugar. And then our Greek lasagna, which we call pastizo, our Greek eggplant parmesan, if you will, that's called moussaka, and just so much deliciousness. And don't worry about calories. That doesn't even count at the Greek Festival, because we're going to put you on the dance floor, and that's the best cardio you've ever had.
Yes, that is so great. I want to accentuate the one thing you just said, where people can save $5. So we're talking about free admission by bringing 3 canned goods there, and you can save $5 on food by doing what now?
If you go to Eventbrite, and that also includes the free admission, and you'll get the choice of the chicken or the pork tenderloin meals, as well as a water bottle as well. So that's a great deal for $25 value for $20.
That's fantastic. And then you mentioned plenty of time on the dance floor to work off some of those calories. We have the Athenian dance troupe doing those folk dances. My son's involved with that, so I'm really excited to see him. It'll be his last time doing it. I know. And they have, I think, a performance on Friday and then 2 on Saturday, right?
Yeah, 6 p.m. on Friday night, and then noon and 6 p.m. on Saturday. We do not want you to miss that. That is definitely a crowd pleaser. And our wonderful friend, Costa Costanis and his sons, they get into the music. We get into the music. We love sounding of the bouzouki. And it doesn't matter if you don't know how to Greek dance. You just join in and, just kick your feet. That's all you need to do and be happy.
So, do we know what number festival this is? Isn't this up in the 60s, right?
64th.
64, man.
And we are 64. A well-oiled machine, my friend.
No question about it. And, the way I like to look at it is this is the original Memphis in May, because Memphis in May is 40-something years old. This is 64, right?
Yes, we squeeze in right between Music Fest and Barbecue Fest. So we feel like we're part of the Memphis in May organization.
Exactly. Kathy, we appreciate you. Thank you so much. God bless you. And really looking forward to a great weekend, May 12th and 13th at the Little Island on Highland. 573.
Absolutely. And you have to bring your opa.
Exactly. Opa. And tell us what opa means again.
Opa is just joyful. We say like ole, maybe in Spanish, but if you better come and you better know it, because I'm going to ask everybody, what are you supposed to say? And everybody screams, Opa!
We love you, Kathy. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Okay, May is Mental Health Month. How is your mental health these days? There's always some form of news out there that addresses mental health, especially coming out of the pandemic here, 3 years since the pandemic began. We're always focused a lot more on mental health. In fact, Mental Health America, which is the nation's leading community-based nonprofit, has dedicated to addressing the needs of those living with mental illness, and is encouraging everyone to consider how the world around them affects their mental health, from their neighbors to genetics. Let's talk more about this with the president and CEO of Mental Health America. Schroeder Stribling is joining us on the digital desk. I appreciate you joining us and telling us what apparently you have some data when it comes to mental health in 2022. Really interested in hearing some of your data. Good morning.
Good morning, and thanks for having me, and thanks for highlighting this month. So you're correct, May is Mental Health Month. This is a tradition that was started by Mental Health America in 1949, and we look at this as a really great annual reminder and opportunity to check in on our mental health and the mental health and well-being of our loved ones, our friends, our neighbors, and our communities. And in conjunction with the start of Mental Health Month, we have released a report today that talks about the data from our National Prevention and Screening Program, which was launched in 2014. So about 6.3 million people came to take a self-test and check in on their mental health in 2022. And the results that we got were concerning, especially with regard to youth. They're consistent with what we've seen before, but they really tell us a great deal about who's in the most distress, and they draw our attention especially to folks who are 24 years and younger.
Schroeder, you know, I have two older teenagers, and they constantly tell me a couple of things. They tell me that social media and the phone devices, smartphones, whatever, tablets, they seem to be, when it comes to mental health issues and things that distract or hurt their mental health, those two issues, social media and screens or devices like an iPhone or any kind of smartphone, really hurt. Based upon your research and whether it's this survey and others, is that what you're seeing?
You are absolutely right that there's a lot of conversation about what is the role of social media in the youth mental health crisis. And no doubt there is a correlation. And so I think your kids are right, and they're insightful to know that the social media and technology is having an effect on their mental health. One of the things that we do know is that about, as I mentioned, about 3/4 of those 6.3 million screeners were youth. And the most popular screen that people take is for depression. Anxiety comes next. And about half of the youth who took a screen for depression reported that they were having frequent thoughts of suicide. So that gives us a sense of the degree of the problem. And then when you ask people, what are the reasons for their distress? The three most popular answers given, and remember this is largely from young people, are concerns about body image, self-image, and relationships. And when we think about social media, certainly those issues of body image and self-image and relationships are all impacted by social media, which is mediating a lot of those relationships and which is giving youth a lot of sometimes distressing feedback about their self-image or their self-worth or their body image. So I think it is definitely one of the contributing factors and something for us to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a major contributing factor for sure. It's really interesting to hear some of that data coming from your screening data, Mental Health America. I understand that housing stability and home environment also plays a pretty large part of our mental health role. Explain that to me.
Yes, so each year we choose a theme for Mental Health Month. And this year, our theme is Look Around and Look Within. So in addition to this being a reminder for folks to check in on their own mental health, it's a reminder to think about how the natural and built environments around us are affecting our mental health. Now, there are some things that we have greater control over than others. Housing stability, sometimes we have greater control over that, but safety in the home, health in the home, where we can make positive changes, we want to encourage people to do that. So as we do every year for Mental Health Month, we've published a toolkit, and this year's toolkit is about looking around and looking within, helps people understand how they can get to that screening, take a self-test, check in on their own mental health, but also what they can do with the natural environment around them. And that could be as simple as changing the setup up of the room that you live in or the apartment where you are, or spending time outside. And outside doesn't mean necessarily that you have to get to a national park. It might just mean that you're able to spend a little bit of outdoor time. For instance, I grew up in a small apartment in New York City, and there was a little tiny porch that we had, but it allowed for some outdoor time. So that's important to people's mental health. And those are the kind of tips and tricks that you'll find in our toolkit for this year.
You know, Schroeder, you stole my question there, because I was talking about Mother Nature with my kids, and they always love, whether it's a bike ride, going to a park. In Memphis, we have one of the largest urban parks in America. It's Shelby Farms Park. But our surrounding areas, there's tons of parks where people go and they can just walk and connect with nature and get, I guess, a clearer mind, just kind of just get away from the hustle and bustle of whether they're connected on a device or in classrooms or various settings, work, what have you. Having that Mother Nature connection can, I would think, really clear the mind a lot. Is that what you're seeing in some of your research? And what else are you seeing, ways that people can find maybe some good habits?
Well, you've really put your finger on something very important. Outside time and getting outdoors is enormously important to our mental health. There's lots of research that tells us. And once again, this does not have to be a national park. Just any outdoor time is good for folks. In fact, this May, we are partnered up with LL Bean for a challenge about outdoor time, and we're hoping to get people to log 500,000 hours of time spent outdoors during May. Could be any kind of outdoors. And you can find at our website, mhanational.org, you can find more information about our LL Bean challenge to spend time outdoors. Pardon me. So that's enormously important. The other thing that I would recommend is that we have a new book out in addition to our May Mental Health Toolkit. And our book is called Where to Start. And the title really says it all. It's about how to start thinking about mental health and mental health in your own life, how to be aware of what supports you best in your own mental health, and how to attend to our well-being, as well as checking in on that of our loved ones and family members and others.
You and I are on the same wavelength here, because my question now is, and I don't want to give the book away, but if there were, let's say, 3 bullet points about where people can begin, and we've already mentioned, clearing your mind, going on a walk or somewhere, maybe in a park or something like that. If you were to give people maybe 3 bullet points on how to start bettering your mental health, and we have thousands of people that watch us each and every morning here, where would you start with those 3 bullet points?
Well, the first, I think, and the most important is to get informed, is to get information. So just like we would about our bodily and our physical health, we need information so that we can take care of our mental health. And we need to know how we can check in on our mental health. So you can find a lot of information about mental health in general at our website, mhanational.org, or in the book. But the other thing that you can find is a link to our National Prevention and Screening Program. And that's the program where the free and anonymous platform that I mentioned before, where people can take any one of 11 validated tests, self-tests, to get more insight about how they're doing and to learn a little bit about their own mental health. So I think those are the most important things to start with. And then the last thing I would mention is to intervene or take action early. If you have signs of distress for yourself, if you're noticing changes in your mood, your appetite, your sleeping, your behavior that are concerning to you, get help early. So starting might be about taking a mental health test or screening, might also be about talking to a trusted loved one or sharing with someone, a therapist perhaps, how you're feeling, to see about getting help. So getting our help early. And if you do find yourself in crisis, very important to know that we have a new resource. It's about a year old now, 988. For anyone who doesn't know about this new number, you can call or text 988 for a mental health crisis. And the goal is to have a mental health response to a mental health crisis. So that's another important resource that we like to get out during this Awareness Month.
Schroeder Stribling with Mental Health Awareness, or Mental Health America, the president and CEO. Really appreciate our conversation, and I think we really helped people kind of address this issue and help them if they need help out there, and just really kind of being in the know when it comes to what to do and some of the problems. Thanks very much.
Thanks so much for having me.
Amanda Hansen back here at the Action News 5 digital desk. And this morning we want to talk about shingles. A lot of times I think people believe that this happens in older people, but if you didn't know, it can happen in younger people too. And so joining us now to talk more about this is Dr. Cyrilyn Walters with Regional One Health. Good morning, doctor. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm glad to be talking with you because I think this is such an interesting topic. And one reason why, my sister, she's in her early 30s, recently had the shingles. And she was like, I had no idea at this age that I could get that sort of thing. So I felt like this is such a great topic to talk about a little bit more. So I guess first off, let's just talk about what shingles is.
Okay, so shingles is actually what we refer to as herpes zoster. And so this is an infection that you can get from having a prior infection with chickenpox. It comes from the same virus. And so when you had chickenpox, that virus remained in your body, but it remained dormant or inactive. And for various reasons later in life, then you reactivate that virus and it causes shingles, which is a rash similar to chickenpox, but it's in one area of your body on one side that causes the same blistering, rash, and burning that you may have when you had chickenpox in the past.
Are there things that can trigger shingles in individuals, such as stress, something like that?
It's a theory that stress may induce shingles. One of the things that we do know is that shingles reactivate when your body's immune system is at its lowest. And that's why we tend to hear, you don't get shingles until you're older, because when you're a young child or when you're an older adult or past the age of 65, your immune system starts to weaken. And so now that we're seeing it in people that are under the age of 50, there is some concerns about, multifactorially, whether we have younger people that are sicker, and so they have some reduced immune system, or other stressors that cause your immune system to be lower at that time, including COVID that we just went through the pandemic.
That's a good point with COVID. Who's most at risk, though? We've kind of touched on, a lot of times people see this in older people. Are those the ones that are most at risk?
So those and anyone who has a weakened immune system. So about 1 in 3 of us will get shingles in our lifetime. And the ones who tend to be the most at risk are people who are over 50. And that's why the vaccines are recommended for that age group. And then anyone that has any type of immunity or weakened immunity. So from various diseases, like say HIV, if that was uncontrolled, children that have, immune disorders, or even adults with cancers and things like that may have weakened immunity.
It makes sense. Thank goodness there's the chickenpox shot that's now available. They didn't have that when I was a kid, and I remember my mom would take me around kids that had the chickenpox so I would get it at a young age. So I guess let's talk about some of the signs, symptoms that people need to look out for, and maybe would alert them that maybe this is what they have.
So the first thing that people tend to feel is like a burning, almost like an internal itch in an area of their body. It can be the trunk of your body. It can be on an arm, a leg, or a face. And so that's the first thing you started feeling without seeing the rash. About 5 to 7 days into that is when you start seeing kind of the fluid-filled rash that we become so comfortable with for chickenpox. And, of course, chickenpox is not as common. So there may be some people who've never actually seen the blistering rash, but it then blisters up in that same area, one side of your body, and over time, then that crusts over like you would have with a typical chicken pox. Some people may end up having fevers associated with it or abdominal pain, but the primary problem is the rash on one side of your body.
My sister, she immediately was feeling, she felt like it was that nerve pain. I mean, she said it was horrible. She ended up, I mean, she's not one that would just go into the emergency room. She ended up in the emergency room wanting to know what was going on. And then, of course, a few days later, that's when that rash appeared and it became evident that that's what it was. But at first it was kind of like, what is this? And she's a nurse, which is interesting enough. But I know we touched on this some, but younger people, why is it, you think, that more younger people are getting shingles like this? I know we mentioned the stress. Is that kind of, and just the weakened immune system, is that kind of really what it's all about?
There's a couple different theories. And actually, if you look at the data, it shows that, you know, as time has been going on, younger people are having higher rates of shingles than people over 50. They're starting to plateau a little bit. One of the major thought process is that if you were born before 1980, just like you talked about with your mom, everyone kind of got shingles naturally, or chickenpox, excuse me, naturally. And so that chickenpox immunity they're feeling may be a little stronger than the vaccines we're now getting. And so you have kind of younger persons who, you know, don't remember getting chickenpox or may not have the vaccine early enough. And then that causes a weaker immunity than if you had chickenpox when you were for the older population. And so because of that, they feel that, you know, it doesn't protect you as well. And so that reactivation is quicker. There's also some theories about the chickenpox vaccine that you used to get in the past was a live vaccine. And so that may have induced kind of that reactivation.
This is just so interesting to me, just because my sister was personally affected by this. Let's talk a little bit more about shingles itself. How long does it last? How contagious is it to pass along to other people?
Okay, so like we discussed, you know, that burning, nerve pain, itching that you may feel, that usually is about the first 5 days. And around that time, you are not contagious. You aren't contagious until you have those blistering rashes that are starting to open. And so that's usually in that first 7 to 10 days is when you start seeing that blistering rash. Over time, that crusts over. So once it's crusted, again, you're no longer contagious. And overall, the whole exposure can last for about 2 to 4 weeks in terms of getting the burn-in, getting the rash, having the rash kind of clear up and everything resolve. It can take about 2 to 4 weeks. Unlike chickenpox, it is only contagious when you touch the fluid from the blister and rash. So for most people, they can just cover up that rash and make sure that they wash their hands pretty well and not interact with it. And in that situation, you won't be contagious to others.
So does it help to get shingles early?
It does not, because there is an opportunity that you can get it a second time. Most people only get it once in their lifetime, but conceivably you get it earlier, then you have that chance of, you know, as you get older and your immunity weakens again, to be able to get it a second time.
I was going to ask you, is it something that you can get again? And so you answered that question for me, which, oh, I hope I don't end up with it at some point. But after experiencing what happened with my sister, I'm just like, wow. What about treatment? Does treatment depend? Does it vary from person to person on what works to help with either the nerve pain, the rash? How is it treated?
So when you do know or have, just like your sister, have a inkling that, you know, there's a rash or something is going on, you want to get treated with antiviral medication. So you have acyclovir or valacyclovir. Those are antivirals that you want to give within the first 48 or 72 hours. And that reduces not only the duration of the rash and the symptoms, but it reduces your chance of having what we call post-herpetic neuralgia, which is a complication that you can get after shingles, where that burning and that pain in that area actually never goes away.
I've heard about that. I've actually done stories with people that have, it's just debilitating and awful. What about the vaccine? We've talked about the vaccine some. Who should get it? When should they get it? Tell us more.
So for the shingles vaccine, it's recommended for patients or persons over the age of 50, and it's a 2-shot vaccine. Now, if you have a weakened immune system, or say someone that has, cancer, and we know that's going on, then your provider or your physician can order for you to get the vaccine earlier than the age of 50. It's available, however, it's an expensive vaccine. So if you want to go based on recommendations, then those would be the persons that are more likely to have that shingles is age 50 and above.
With more younger people seeing shingles, do you think eventually that might be altered a little bit on the age?
It could be, because initially it was actually 65 and above, and so they reduced it to 50. And like we talked about, the data is showing that patients or persons over 65 and 70, the number of persons getting shingles have kind of plateaued, so it's not getting any higher. But the numbers that are going up are mostly in the people in the 40 to 50 range, and of course the younger ones are starting to go up. So I think if that trend continues, you might see the recommendation continue to drop.
Well, Dr. Walters, this interview has been so interesting to me. Is there anything else that you want to mention before we let you go?
In addition to getting the shingles vaccine, which is for over 50, get your chickenpox vaccine. So that is one of the things that will help kind of reduce the chances of you having that reactivation. So they kind of go hand in hand, since they're the same virus. It's just at different presentations.
Well, good deal. Well, Dr. Walters, I really appreciate your time, and thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're approaching Mother's Day weekend here. I got a great Mother's Day story for you. I'm joined right now by Michelle Potts and Abby Potts. They both work alongside of each other at St. Francis Hospital in Memphis. Ladies, good morning to you. Appreciate you joining us on the Action News 5 digital desk. Take me through what exactly you guys do and how your shifts interact with one another. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. I basically am on the admin side now. I'm a nurse, and Abby Grace is in the OR. She's a scrub tech, so she assists the doctors during surgery.
Fantastic. Okay, so how did this happen? Because we've done a couple of Mother's Day stories where there's a mother-daughter duo. That we did one with FedEx where they were two pilots and they went together internationally. First ever mother-daughter duo to fly internationally. It was pretty cool. And I would think that this is a rare situation. Tell me about the dynamic. What's it like, Abby, working with your mom? And are there moments where you're just like, I don't have time, Mom? Stop.
I feel really blessed and lucky to work with her. She's a great inspiration for me, just coming into healthcare. And I actually get to come eat lunch with her some days. So it's just nice a lot of people don't get to see their moms on a regular basis. So I just feel really lucky. And sometimes people will say, oh, I'm going to tell your mom on you. Well, it's fine. She's cool.
Michelle, you must have been quite the influence for Abby. Tell me about that process. Did you always want her to go into the medical profession, or when she did decide, did you kind of steer her in one way? And give me your perspective.
Well, I'm certainly thrilled that she is. She has a heart for helping people. Her integrity is right on point for being in healthcare. This child came here right out of high school, was a PCT transporting patients, fell in love with the OR, which I thought was wonderful, and decided she was going to school to be a scrub tech. So it all kind of blossomed here for her. I supported that immensely. She is stellar in the OR. The greatest joy for me is the doctors coming up saying how awesome she is. And I just can't wait to see where God takes her next. He has plans for her. She's not done yet.
That's fantastic. And again, we want to remind everybody that, Michelle, you are a registered nurse at St. Francis Hospital, and Abby, you're a surgical tech there at the same hospital. What do your colleagues say when they see you two? I mean, I'm just looking at you on a Zoom. I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys are like mini-me's and twins and even sisters. I mean, do they say anything to you guys like, here they go. Here come the Potts family, and they're coming after.
When I first started here, I would actually wear her old hat that she would wear. So some people would come up behind me and say, "Hey, Michelle," and I'm like, "You got the wrong one."
That's great. That's great. I love it. So we got Mother's Day this weekend, this Sunday. And I guess it takes a special meeting for everybody in their own little ways. Tell me what Mother's Day is like at your household. Michelle, you go first.
I usually get spoiled. She's really good, especially now she has her own money and her big girl job. She really spoils me. Christmas was amazing this past year. She is so intuitive to the things that, you might want or need, and so thoughtful. So I'm excited to see what this weekend brings. Just being with her is enough, truly, but she's going to do more. I already know.
Abby, anything you want to say to your mom before we let you go about, obviously she was quite the inspiration for you.
Thank you for always being here for me and being my biggest supporter. And everyone go hug your mom this weekend. My pleasure.
Yeah, great advice. You guys are too cute. We really appreciate you joining us on the Digital Desk. Happy Mother's Day, and thanks again for taking a few minutes. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
There's the cover of the latest edition of La Prensa Latina on newsstands right now, talking about the end of Title 42. Certainly a news item that we've covered extensively. It's national, international news, really. And it's, of course, on the cover of the largest bilingual newspaper here in the Memphis area. Let's bring in Vivian Fernandez de Adamson, the editor of La Prensa Latina, on this Friday morning. Hey, Vivian. How are you?
Hi, Andrew. How are you?
Doing well. So I know that this has got to be quite the topic, quite the discussion all across Memphis and the Mid-South this week, huh?
Right. Yes. Actually, I think it is a worldwide topic, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt about it. So what can we see inside the pages of La Prensa Latina?
Well, like you said, for the cover story that we have is about immigration, and the end of Title 42, which, was in place, during the pandemic to, expel the immigrants, that were coming to the United States just to avoid, more infections, due to COVID-19. But now that it ended yesterday, there's going to be new rules for immigration in this country. So, meaning that a lot of the immigrants that are coming, seeking asylum, they're going to be returned. If they don't come, legally, according to the new rules, then they might be deported and, they won't be able to come back to this country for 5 years. So again, some of these rules, said that families who cross the border will face curfews and monitoring. The head of household will wear an ankle bracelet after cases are heard within 30 days. And also they're going to open 100 regional immigration hubs across the Western Hemisphere and granting humanitarian parole to 30,000 people a month to enter the country from other countries. So they have taken, according to the Associated Press, U.S. officials have detailed that the steps that they have taken, including increasing deportation flights as they prepare for, what many are expecting, that a huge influx of immigrants, coming to, to the U.S.-Mexico border. So this is what you can read in the paper, what the new rules are, what you can do and, everything about it.
Okay, the second article I want to focus on, Vivian, is barbecue time. Yes, the World Championship Barbecue Cooking Contest 2023 downtown at the Tom Lee Park. It's going to be a great time. Right?
Oh, yes, absolutely. You know, although it's going to be smaller, still it is the largest competition, you know, of this kind in the whole world. So, you know, and it's one of the best too. So it's going to be a great time. For everybody, you know. I've heard that, you know, I didn't go to the music festival, but I heard that it was, you know, very good, that people were, you know, very happy about it. You know, they were enjoying it. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure this is going to be another success for Memphis in May as well. Again, this is going to be from May 17th to May 20th at Tom Lee Park once again. So you can go ahead and buy your tickets, you know, don't miss it. It's going to be wonderful. And again, instead of, you know, having over 200 teams, you know, like usually they do, they're going to have 150 teams. But again, this is because of all the renovations that they have done to Tom Lee Park.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I was there for Music Fest, the Beale Street Music Festival. A lot of fun, a lot of changes too when it comes to the renovations. Certainly a good time. All right, final thing here. May, National Pet Month, and ways and tips on how to take better care of your pets.
Yeah, I can say it's probably my favorite article this week because I love pets. You know, I have a dog who is my baby. So, you know, yes, you know, here, you know, we tell you, you know, what to do to take a good care of your pets, you know, like taking them to the vet, you know, when you have to, you know, giving them the right food, making sure that they drink water, you know, enough water, and that they're, you know, that they are in good health. You know, and just remember that they are, you know, not only they're a good company for you, but they are a family member as well. So you have to take care of them.
Wonderful, wonderful, Vivian. Again, this is all in the pages of La Prensa Latina, LaPrensaLatina.com, on newsstands now. You can also go online. Before we let you go, Vivian, anything else you'd like to say?
Well, yes, actually, there's a lot of things, you know, happening in town right now. I mean, for fun, you can go to Brazil by night or Brazil by day, which is, you know, the one by night is tonight at the Crosstown Theater, and Brazil by day is tomorrow, which is a free community event for everyone, for the whole family. So, you know, you can go and enjoy it. This is with Dance Collective and Iris Collective. So Collage Dance Collective, and Iris Collective. And again, it is free, and you can learn more about Brazil, you know, and their music and their culture. So it's going to be really nice. And also we have the Sistine Chapel exhibit at the Renaissance Convention Center, which is an amazing exhibit, to be honest with you.
Okay, all right. Vivian Fernandez de Adamson, La Prensa Latina editor. We always appreciate you and talking with you each and every Friday morning. Have a great weekend. Thanks very much.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thanks.
Well, as you're heading out the door here on a Friday morning, we've got a mixture of clouds and sun, and also opportunities for scattered showers and storms. You're joining us here on the digital desk and our digital platforms on Action News 5. I'm First Alert meteorologist Patrick Ellis. 85 the forecast high temperature for today. A southerly wind coming in here around 10 miles per hour. And keep in mind that we're probably going to be tangling with some scattered downpours from time to time. Won't be an all-day washout. I think there will be some periods of time where we will see that sunshine that will help to boost up the temperatures. Greek Festival kicks off here today. If you are heading out there, temperatures would work their way into the middle 80s. A bit of a breeze coming out of the south and southwest around 10, maybe as high as 15 miles per hour from time to time this afternoon. But notice those rain chances tapering off a bit through the afternoon and early evening. But don't be looking at this and saying, okay, we're going to be out of the rain completely. I think we do get another wave of showers and thunderstorms to contend with later on tonight that could feature a few stronger storms as well. Wind and hail, the potential in play there. Tornado risk pretty low, but of course with the showers and storms, they could be quite heavy. Let's go hour by hour with that, okay? As we roll through this morning, you'll see the showers and rumbles of thunder kind of pushing through here. We've been noticing that throughout much of the morning hours. A lot of the stuff that's over in eastern Arkansas will trek across the Mississippi River, and continue its trek towards the north and east. We are watching other complexes of thunderstorms around the region, one of which is up into southeastern Arkansas, southeastern portions of Missouri. That will head in our direction tonight or later on today. That will feature some opportunities for some stronger storms. Before that, temperatures warming up well into the 80s, but here comes that cluster of thunderstorms dropping in here that could feature some strong winds, hail, frequent lightning, and of course torrential downpours moving into metro Memphis by the time we head into about 8-9 o'clock this evening. If this model is correct, there are other models that would suggest it'd be a little bit earlier, and some don't even show it at all. So it's still a low confidence forecast, but we want you to be prepared and have that first alert to the potential at some point in time today of storms moving into your area. The showers and storms that we do get will fade away. We'll do the whole process over again for your Saturday. A few spotty showers early in the day, then rolling into the afternoon hours. Upper 80s, approaching 90 Saturday afternoon. A couple of spotty downpours from here and there. About 20 to 30% opportunity of seeing that. Then we'll drop back down through the 70s as we head into your Sunday. Sunday looks to be a pretty nice day for Mother's Day. Starting off maybe a patchy area of fog or shower chance. Working our way back up into the upper 80s to near 90 degrees for Mother's Day. So if you have brunch plans, be prepared for that. Church plans as well. Passing shower and storm chances and that summer steam continues. The positive note is that we will eventually see some drier air moving into the area. Mother's Day forecast up to 90 degrees, a 20% chance for a shower or storm under partly sunny skies. And you'll notice that muggy meter dropping into the lower end of the spectrum by next week. That comes by way of a front that will also usher in lower rain chances by the time we head towards the mid portion of next week. Highs in the lower 80s, could be a couple spots, upper 70s in some of the cooler pockets. Overnight lows in the lower 60s by that point. So that's good news. Some lower humidity feeling pretty nice, but we have to get past this summery steam that's still in place here through the end of this week, into the weekend, and into early next week before we get into that drier air.
And that does it for us here in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Have yourself a wonderful weekend. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. Enjoy the time off with family and friends. We'll look for you back here. New time for the Digital Desk starts bright and early at 7 o'clock each and every weekday morning. We have Ariana Poindexter anchoring the Action News 5 midday report at the top of the hour. We'll see you next week, Monday.